Hey guys, welcome to Fanfic Fanatics. So in today's video we are gonna see what if Deku was abandoned and had the Decay Quirk. This story is Ashmaker, Pulvis et Umbra Sumus by the respected author ABSOLuteOG. Make sure to show some love to their work. Before starting, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are interested in MHA fanfictions. Now without wasting any more time, let's dive in. Here's a short summary. Izuku's quirk is Decay. A quirk fit for a villain. Yet his eyes are on Ua. Izuku is an orphan, one of the lowest members of Japanese society. A throwaway child no one wants or pretends to care for. Yet he aims high. He will show everyone what a real hero is, even if he is seen as something for something he didn't choose. We are dust and shadows. Now let's get to the story. Izuku was sitting in class, playing with his green hair. His hand was in a type of glove. It looked like the gloves digital artists wear to avoid triggering their tablets. To be fair, that is where he got the idea for the glove from. He didn't think it was looking cool, but a glove like that made from quirk-resistant material would be handy. It would allow him to live a normal life. Normal. You're normal if you have a meta ability, commonly known as a quirk. Only the quirkless are abnormal. But Izuku's quirk. It isn't like it is so weak that he could be quirkless. No, it is too strong. He can't control it. His quirk causes problems. At least he isn't quirkless. He played with his hair, thinking to himself, I need to dye them soon again. The green pales out. He dyes his hair, side effect of the quirk he is cursed with. He was ripped from his thoughts when a classmate of his came into the room. Bakugo Katsuki, the top dog of the class. One of the class best students and an enigma to Izuku. No, Bakugo himself isn't an enigma to Izuku. They used to be friends. Their parents, their mothers used to be friends. But that changed when he got his quirk. His curse. Midoriya Inko didn't want to be the mother of a child with a villain's quirk. She sent him to an orphanage. Mind you, she didn't give him up for adoption, she didn't sign a release that he can be adopted. A quirk of the Japanese law is that such release is needed. It is separate from being given up. Most parents won't sign it to keep face in front of society. This results in too many children in overloaded orphanages. And no fostering. No one bothers to foster a child that can't be adopted. He is stuck in the system for a decade. But somehow, he never lost contact with Bakugo. His friend won't be friendly to orphan trash, he won't be friendly to a villain. Again, his quirk that took his mother in a way took his friend as well. He is marked a villain because of it. Not even the quirkless student body won't want to deal with him. They say they suffer enough without him. Besides the odd snarl here and there, he isn't bullied. If anything, he is the bully. Well, he protects Bakugo's victims, he tries to. Mainly the other orphans attending Aldera Junior High. Bakugo himself, therefore, isn't an enigma, he knows the boy. No, his quirk is the enigma. It is a meta ability that is destructive in nature. While it isn't clear if Bakugo can control it or has just anger issues, Izuku can't control his. Izuku's quirk is nearly soundless, Bakugo's is noisy. As if dynamite explodes close by. It flashes brightly. The prime example for a flashy hero quirk. Yet it is destructive like Izuku's very own, dark villain quirk. Why Bakugo is seen as a hero and he a villain, he doesn't get it. Maybe it is because he is a throwaway child. Or a villain. Two ugly spots in one in the eyes of Japanese society. Bakugo was late today, not that the teacher cares. He only cares that Bakugo applied for one if not the best hero school in Japan. Maybe even the world. No student of Aldera ever managed to come in. At least not into the hero course. There were and are a few, very few students Izuku knows that managed to get into the management and general studies course. And one who is in support. Izuku knows that one personally. He only heard about the others from other orphans and the employees there. But it is true that none of Aldera alumni managed to get a spot in the hero course. Okay, now that Bakugo is there, we can discuss your choices for high school. Spoke their teacher. But we all know you applied for hero schools. The class cheered, showcasing their quirks. All, but Izuku. Bakugo and Midoriya even applied for UA. Well, general studies as well as hero course in case of Midoriya. Spoke the teacher. Why not management or support? You seriously think you could top me? yelled Bakugo, sparking explosions. Izuku just sighed. Just because I applied, doesn't mean that I have a superiority complex like you. I applied for everything under the sun, he replied. He then turned to their teacher. I plan to apply for these, but the support one requires a prototype machine. Ah, that explains it, he said. Bakugo, please do not use your quirk. I want to discuss Plan Bs with you. I don't need a Plan B, muttered Bakugo. He then saw Izuku's notebook. Hair dye? Stupid Deku. Izuku rolled his eyes. His class was, despite everything, not that one-track minded. Most of them had Plan Bs. Izuku even had the feeling some of them only applied for hero schools as a courtesy, or as a trend. Weirdly enough, the boy with the elongated eyes seemed to be very serious about becoming a hero. Only Bakugo was the one who hadn't had a Plan B. He didn't even apply for different hero schools. Izuku applied for any school that won't be an issue for commuting, had student boarding and was in the budget of the orphanage. He also applied for scholarships. Mainly ones for orphans specifically, though. Well, he didn't apply for that many ones that offer boarding. He feels bad to leave the orphanage. He made it his duty to keep an eye on the younger ones, especially the quirkless and other kids with villainous quirks. Bakugo, why won't you even apply for other hero schools? He said with a sprinkle of sarcasm. Don't you want the feeling of institutions arguing over you? I don't need advice from some villain scum, replied Bakugo. Said the person with the same quirk as the German villain Dynamite. Muttered Izuku. He heard an explosion from Bakugo. The rest of the class was just watching the interaction. They won't dare to piss off either one of them. Well, they take digs at Midoriya when they can hide behind Bakugo. But alone, they are afraid of the kid who, according to rumors, decayed his own parents. But they don't know this isn't true. It is just a stupid rumor, but the discriminating sheep won't know. The day came to an end and they could leave school and go to their homes. Not that Izuku has one. He just lives there, but he doesn't feel home there. He was walking under a passage. He normally doesn't go that way, but today, he wanted to avoid Bakugo. He should not have to. He was attacked by a slime blob. A villain with a very disgusting quirk. It was risky, but Izuku had an idea. Izuku got rid of one of his hands. He then stuck his hand into the slime. As soon as all 5 fingers were in it, the slime cried in pain. He let go of Izuku. You shouldn't have done that, or do you have a license? Spoke a voice. Izuku turned around and saw none other than All Might. He replied, the Japanese #1 hero. I wasn't sure if anyone would save me. Not that anyone would care. He checked the ground for his glove. He found it and put it on. He saw that All Might was putting the villain in bottles. Interesting restraining method. All Might, I have a question, spoke Izuku. Of course I give you an autograph, young, replied the hero. Midoriya. Midoriya Izuku. He introduced himself, but that isn't my question, not that I would mind one. He gave All Might a notebook of his, and a pencil. All Might signed fast. Too fast, Izuku could not ask. Need to go, young Midoriya. Izuku accidentally held onto All Might, maybe because the hero's movement was too sudden. All Might noted the boy hanging on him. He landed on a roof of an office building. Izuku then blurted out the question, before the hero could jump away again. Can someone with a quirk like mine become a hero? Asked Midoriya. Depends, what is your quirk? Replied All Might. Decay. I can decay anything, if I touch it with all of my fingers. Explained Izuku. I was told this is a villain's quirk, even though one in my class has a similarly destructive quirk. Yet he is assumed to be the first one in our class to go to UA's hero course. Can you demonstrate your quirk? Asked All Might. Sure. Izuku looked around, looking for something he could decay. They were on a roof. Of course, there wasn't much. But 2 plastic cups of coffee. Remains of the break of 2 office workers. At least no shoes. He took off one of his gloves and grabbed one of the cup. First with 2 fingers, then 3, 4 and 5. It turned to dust. Like I said, villainous. Yet my classmate who creates explosions. He felt a tear run down his face. He rubbed it away. All Might watched. Young Midoriya, is everything okay? Why yes. It isn't your business anyway. Replied Izuku. Now, my question, can I become a hero? While All Might thought what to reply, Izuku put his glove back on. If anything, your quirk may be better than the explosion one, replied All Might. I think you can be a hero, if you put the work in it. Izuku looked to the hero, as if he couldn't believe him. Really? Why? Explosions are nasty, hard to control. They're loud, explained All Might. You can destroy things more precise, in a more controlled manner, silently. You could be a good rescue or underground hero. That makes sense, I thank you, replied Izuku. But like I said, you need to put in the work. But seriously, is everything alright? Asked All Might. You're tearing up. Izuku noted he was starting to cry. He took a deep breath and said, I am orphan. Adding onto my quirk being seen as villainous, I get told to commit suicide quite a lot. Oh, we better get you off the roof then, spoke All Might. Where do you live? Blackgate Orphanage for Troubled Youth, replied Izuku. He then saw the bottles breaking. You better get going, the goo is fleeing. All Might saw it as well and chased after it. With that, Izuku made his way to the orphanage. After his meeting with All Might, he was feeling better. While not his favorite hero, at least not anymore, he was still excited to have met the hero outside of any convention type of deal. Albeit, he isn't sure what to think about him revealing a secret of his to the man, who is a stranger to him. But not everyone can claim have met All Might, let alone talk to him so casually. When he gets to the orphanage, he has to brag about it. At least to the younger kids. He has the proof for it. But he still has to get there. Mrs. Shioda will be pissed when he arrives late. But he has proof to show why he is late. He walked tough a busy part of Masutafu. Especially when he realized that a battle was going on. He tried to get a good view, got his notebook ready. Then he saw him. Bakugo was being attacked by the slime villain. While his own quirk was painful to the villain, Bakugo's sparks weren't able to prevail in the goo. Looking around, Izuku saw so many heroes. But no one did anything. Something was clicking in his mind, his body was moving on his own. He ran to the villain and Bakugo. He heard people yell, telling him to stop. But Izuku ran into action. As soon as he was close enough, he stuck his hand into the villain. Once again, the slime started to screech in pain. He let go of Bakugo. Said boy pushed Izuku to the ground, ran away, before a paramedic of the ambulance stopped him to check for injuries. To Izuku's surprise, he was praised by the surrounding people for helping Bakugo. Not by Bakugo, though. Before anyone could realize that he has a villainous quirk, he left the scene. Not before catching a glimpse of how All Might was surrounded by steam, replaced by a skeleton of a man. Mrs. Shioda won't appreciate it if he comes late. He has to go. She is one of the few people who sees past his quirk. He doesn't want it to ruin his bond with her. A few days later, on a Saturday, he was working on his prototype machine he needs to apply for the support course. He doesn't really want to, but as an orphan that can't be adopted with a villainous quirk, he has to take any straw to build a future for himself. Even if it means doing something he isn't interested in. No, management is worse than support. Mrs. Shioda walked into the room he was sharing with a quirkless boy, a year older. Said boy lazying on his bed, watching Izuku working. Mrs. Shioda was very thin and short. Her quirk, Neko, gave her the characteristics of a cat. Orange fluffy tail, ears and claws. Not to mention the whiskers. She wore oftentimes jumpers she knitted herself, a lot of green shades. The only thing Izuku dislikes about her is that she constantly bugs him that he dyes his hair green. But unless he uses his allowance for anything illegal, she can't do anything against his spending habits. Izuku, is your machine finished? The deadline is soon. Not that it bothers you, spoke Mrs. Shioda. For how many schools did you apply? Any school that is in budget, is easily reachable, and if not, offers boarding. I even plan to apply for all UA courses, replied Izuku. Around 80 schools, not counting separate schools. That is overkill, chimed his roommate in. Shut up, Tanjiro. You at least got into Ketsubutsu's general course due to their quirkless quota. Snapped Izuku at him. You don't have to grasp onto every straw. You can fall back on disability reliefs and support programs. This pissed off the black-haired boy. Both then felt claws scratching the backs of their head, hairs falling. No hissy fits, boys. Tanjiro, don't mock Izuku for being dedicated. If anything, you should have put more effort into it. What if you hadn't gotten a spot in Ketsubutsu? Spoke Mrs. Shioda. I would have gotten into Shiketsu's program, replied Tanjiro. Or CI, or Saijin. Dude, CI is a girls-only school, reminded him Izuku, and I'm pretty sure Saijin has a very intense no-orphan policy. Boys. Izuku, apologized to Tanjiro, said Mrs. Shioda. I'm sorry for discriminating you for being quirkless, said Izuku. As an apology, you can have my dessert for a week. Deal. Now get going. The stores end soon, if you really need new hair dye, said Tanjiro, accepting the apology. With that, Izuku left the orphanage to the city. He soon came to the shop he frequents. The cashier already placed a bag with the dye and gloves ready for him. Old Mr. Hamato is used that Izuku fetches his hair dye, but he doesn't know why. Oi, kiddo, sure that you don't want to try something new? Asked Hamato. Nope, Hamato-sama. A different color would feel wrong, replied Izuku, while he paid. Wrong? Why? This is the color I'm born with, but since I have my quirk, it is a grayish periwinkle, replied Izuku, just not a color I like. Okay, but if you ever want to switch it up, Midoriya-kun, replied Hamato. Have a nice day. You too, sir. He left the shop. He kinda felt bad, he lied to the old Hamato. Like Mrs. Shioda, he didn't care about his quirk. Well, Hamato is quirkless, the quirkless tend to be more accepting. He didn't want to start the same discussion he has with Mrs. Shioda regularly. And unlike Mrs. Shioda, Hamato could block him from buying hair dye. Hamato, like other shop owners already did, could ban him from their stores on the pretend that he is a villain. His quirk being proof enough. He won't shop in Hamato's store otherwise. It is rather far from the orphanage and somewhat pricey. On the other hand, Hamato's shop is the closest one to carry his anti-quirk gloves in the digital artist style, so he may have brought the dye here as well. He is sure Hamato would call him idiotic. Shioda does, Bakugo does, Tanjiro does. Everyone who knows does. He actually likes the periwinkle coloration. He just doesn't like that it isn't his mother's hair color. He keeps them green to feel connected to her, if she ever takes him back. She didn't sign the release, so there has to be a chance, right? He was walking through a colony of houses, when he noted a figure. He saw a blond man who was more akin to a skeleton. The form he saw in All Might's spot. He stopped and walked to the man. Ah, young Midoriya, I've been looking for you, said the skeletal remains of All Might. Are you really All Might? How? Izuku couldn't finish his thoughts. How could his muscle mass just poof away? Was this part of his quirk? Is this why his true identity is unknown? Young Midoriya. Izuku realized something. I muttered, didn't I? I'm sorry. It is okay. The poofing is in fact part of my quirk. You have a bright mind figuring that out, said All Might. My quirk is what I want to talk with you about. You see, he uncovered his stomach, showing a megalith of a scar. I received this nasty injury years ago fighting a powerful villain. This injury compensates my ability to use my quirk. I can only use it 5 hours a day now. It gets worse. Why are you telling me this? Asked Izuku. Not that he minds learning unknown data about heroes, especially one he used to adore the most. My quirk can be passed on. In fact, I'm the 8th wielder, explained All Might. I want to make you the 9th wielder, and train you in preparation for One for All. It is a very demanding quirk. Izuku had no idea what to answer. His head was empty, yet so many thoughts rushed through it. Yet no answer he could give. This was a lot to take in. Even just the fact that this type of quirk exists. I am honored that you consider me for this, but I decline. Remember our talk? Replied Izuku to the hero's surprise. I want to be a symbol of hope for the orphans of Japan, as well as people with unfortunate quirks. Your quirk, One for All, it has its own message already. I don't want to be a second you. Now it was Toshinori's turn to be speechless. He never expected to be declined like this. Not that he is against his goal. It somewhat reminds him of someone, his own mentor. Nana Shimura. If he remembers, Midoriya was told to kill himself, yet he wants to continue. Nana either never backed down. I see. Understandable and an admirable goal, young Midoriya. Well, then I ask you to keep an eye for other hopefuls for me. While I start to teach at UA soon, Toshinori had an idea. I would like to have extra eyes in the world. Of course. I'll be honored to help you in other ways, agreed Izuku. Wait, Ua? Whoa. Your quirk. Your quirk had me thinking, can you control the decay, or will it eat its way through objects when all 5 fingers are applied? Said Toshinori. I assume you think the latter is true. I offer you to train you anyway, but in a different manner, to test and strengthen your quirk. And to test my theory. Who knows, maybe you change your mind about one for all. Really? Yes. And I know where we could train. You know Dagoba Beach? Asked the hero. Yes. I rob that beach regularly for parts for my prototype machine. That place is a gold mine, replied Izuku. What is one man's trash might be another man's building material or training exercise, said Toshinori. Well then, let us meet there tomorrow. Tanjiro was well aware that Izuku was more happy than normally. He wasn't sure why, if anything he was a bit worried, because it had been a while since he had seen Izuku that happy, but he was glad Izuku was happy. Albeit, he was confused that Izuku discontinued the prototype for his support course application. Heck, he allowed a different orphan in their orphanage to take it and present it as theirs. While it isn't unheard of that Izuku helps, straight-up cheating isn't part of it. Not that Tanjiro cares, as long as he is left alone. On the other hand, Izuku leaving for hours and returning drained, showing signs of quirk overuse nonetheless, Tanjiro was worried, so was Mrs. Shiota. But Tanjiro had an answer for that. At least he thinks he has an answer. While he and his sister Nezuko were out in Masutafu, they spotted Izuku and All Might at Dagoba Beach. Said beach looked far more tidy. Lesser like a dumpster. It looked like they would train, his quirk control mainly. Well, Izuku did show them the autograph. Well, no weed for Tanjiro. Even though Nezuko saw it too. Izuku and All Might, who introduced himself as Yagi Toshinori, were testing Izuku's quirk for weeks. These weeks turned into months of quirk usage and general training. Each passing day, the unofficial dumpster site became a usable and nice beach. Albeit the sand shifted in color, due to Izuku's ash making. This also resulted in his quirk being more potent and acting faster, and in a revelation. Izuku can control the quirk to some extent, but not like All Might guessed. Instead of controlling the decay with his mind while he touches it, Izuku can, infect, objects. Even when he doesn't touch something anymore, an object continues to decay. Which he can control, to a weak extent so far. All Might is certain this can be built up even more. But one thing is certain, he is ready for Ua. He and who knows how many students were collected in the auditorium of Ua. One of the teachers, the pro hero present Mike, who's also a very popular radio host, told them about the practical exam. They then were led to a fake city training ground. Izuku really had to wonder, what is UA's budget? A gate opened and students of dozens of middle schools rushed into the city. Soon they saw the first robot to trash. Izuku ran up to one, touched it and watched it turn to dust. He repeated that with many other bots. While making dust, he could hear Bakugo Katsuki cracking one explosion after the other. He decided not to let himself be distracted by the explosive brute. Izuku climbed onto a building to watch and to look out for a few three-pointers. He saw a group, not noticed by the other participants. No wonder, these were in an area not really reached by anyone. He climbed down the building and ran up to the group. There he saw a boy with purple hair sneaking up from behind the bots. He did something that activated them. What the? Muttered Izuku, sneaking up to two, before turning them to dust. How are you doing this? They have buttons on the back, for us people with lesser destructive quirks. Explained the purple-haired boy. I wish I could mind control these fuckers. I want to see bots battle each other. Agreed. That would be fire. Replied Izuku, I hope to see you in class. With that, the boys split their ways and continued to rack up points. Izuku was only touching some lightly and the decay ate its way through the metal giants. He was again on a building, watching his surroundings being trashed by robots. Until he saw a giant one emerge. He saw many participants run away from it. It was the zero-pointer, worthless, yet massive. No one would bother to deal with it. He wanted to leave as well, when he saw that a girl was stuck under some debris. The zero-pointer soon walking on her. This was an exam for hero school, yet no one bothers to save her and be a hero. He jumped off, landed on a bot and disintegrated it. He ran to the girl. He decayed the debris. Can you walk? He asked. He looked to the boy, wondering when it will reach them. No, said the girl. I can't carry you, my quirk would decay you, said Izuku. I think I lost my gloves. He saw the bot was close, only meters away. I'll try to disintegrate this pointer. That's crazy. It is crazy that no one else is trying to help, despite this being an exam for a hero school, replied Izuku. The bot's foot was making its last step before it would step onto them. Izuku detracted his arms, in preparation. He activated Decay. On Dagobah, he tried to charge up his quirk, so that a big object would decay faster as soon as he touches it. It seemed to work on Dagobah. While charging, he noted his hands becoming drier. Hamato-sama luckily sold creams and balsams as well. You better leave, said the girl. No, so far I saw nothing indicating that UA's staff would rescue you, said Izuku. I'm not leaving you behind. Izuku felt something weird. Then he saw it. A black mass building up on his hand. It started to burn. No, not burn, but it was still painful. The wanted it to stop. Then, the mass got loose, the pain lessened. He tried to shake it off. The black mass got slung onto the 0-pointer, into what could be called the chest area. From there, it disintegrated, until the 0-pointer was gone. Eraserhead is known by his colleagues to not think highly of hero hopefuls. So it was surprising when he told the other teachers, you see the boy who disintegrated the 0-pointer, who didn't flee. He's hard to miss, said the heroine Midnight. Looks like he used a new trick he wasn't aware of. I want him in my class, said Eraserhead. His hand was somewhat scarred. Shit, I need to see a medical, muttered Izuku. Then I am right, spoke an old woman. Izuku recognized her as the rescue heroine recovery girl, who's now the school nurse of UA. Izuku showed her his hand. Oh, what did you do? I don't know. Overusing my quirk, I guess, replied Izuku. Recovery girl then helped the girl. Izuku left before he could learn her girl. He was about to leave the UA grounds when a rather tall boy with glasses stepped in front of him. I saw that you lost these gloves earlier, said the boy. I wanted to give them back. Izuku took them and said, thanks, I've already wondered where they were. He put them on. You're pretty excited to have them back. Is this some artist's thing? Asked the glasses wearer. No, they are quirk control gloves, explained Izuku. You see, my quirk disintegrates everything I touch, which can cause problems. The anti-quirk fabric helps. Well, I'm happy I could help, he said. I have to go. I hope to see you in UA. I hope to see you, too. Back at the orphanage, he told Tanjiro and Mrs. Shioda about how he fared. Mrs. Shioda shook her head when she heard how the other wannabe heroes just left the girl to her own devices. The other orphans asked him about the exam, mainly the practical one. Even some that normally called him villain and other not-so-nice names were curious about the exam. They also shared the others' excitement when Izuku's letter arrived. Come on, Dusty, yelled one of his bullies. Open it. It was a rarity that a letter of UA was in their building, let alone for the hero course. Wait a minute, what if that letter is for the management course? Asked someone else. Mrs. Shioda answered, the hero course is the first one to give out acceptances, so that the rejects can join other courses if they are interested. Now open it already. Yes, Mrs. Shioda, said Izuku, before opening the envelope. There was a folded paper and a disc. Said disc projected a hologram. A hologram of All Might. Hello, young Midoriya. I am happy to announce that you have been accepted into Class 1A of the hero course of UA. The other orphans broke out into cheering. The Ashmaker made it. The Ashmaker made it, yelled some. For once, Izuku didn't mind being called that. Not that he minds it much. Better than Deku, right? The letter contains the list of materials you need, as well as important information. And now a message from one of the other participants of the exam. Spoke All Might's hologram. I'm sure you recognize her. Ms. Uraraka. She stepped into the hologram's field. I didn't catch your name. I wanted to thank you, so I asked the school if they could give some of my points to you. They said this isn't possible, but you apparently passed anyway. The hologram ended. Someone whistled. Already saved someone. Nice. What a stupid bitch, giving up her own points. Boys, stop it, said Mrs. Shiota. Now, let's celebrate that Izuku got accepted. I got a cake ready. Ua was impressive. Even more now that he attends the school. People always doubted that an unwanted orphan like him, someone with a villainous quirk, would archive this. Now he just has to graduate from Ua and establish himself as a pillar of hope for anyone caught in Japan's orphanages or is cursed by their quirk. He wonders if the boy with the mind control quirk got it. He hopes so. "Hey you!" yelled someone. He thinks he recognizes that voice from somewhere. Looking around he saw her. The girl from the exam. The girl who wanted to give him some of her points. "It's so nice to see you again. Are you in 1A? "Yes, I assume you too?" She gave a nod. "Let us go to our classroom, then." She followed him into the building. "Of course. My name is Uraraka Ochako, by the way." "Midoriya Izuku. How's your hand?" asked Uraraka. "Good. I still don't know what this was, though," replied Izuku, while walking through the corridors. "I wasn't able to see a professional about it in time, so my hand is one big scar now, but it seems to recover. Somewhat." "What a shame. Just a scar," said Izuku. "Now, what is your quirk?" "Zero gravity. I can delete the gravity of subjects when touching them," explained Uraraka. "Like yours, mine is more suitable for rescue work." "You think my quirk is good for rescues?" asked Izuku. "Most people tell me my quirk is only good for killing people." "Well, these people are idiots," said Uraraka. "Where there? Wow, these doors are massive." Izuku had to agree. These doors were ludicrous in height. They walked into the room of 1A. He was not able to spot the mind control user anywhere. The next thing the duo saw was how the tall boy who returned Izuku's gloves scolded none other than Bakugo Katsuki. "Oh great, he's in this class," muttered Izuku. "Let's find a place to sit." "You," roared Bakugo. "What are you doing here, Deku?" "Attending school, Bakugo," replied Izuku nonchalantly. "Seriously, a student complains about you on the first day? A new record?" The boy who just scolded Bakugo asked Izuku, "You know him?" "He was in my old middle school class," replied Izuku, "and thanks again for the gloves." "You're welcome. I'm Iida Tenya, Midoriya Izuku." Bakugo didn't appreciate that he was ignored, and made an explosion. Izuku just rolled his eyes. Then, a yellow caterpillar came in. Said giant insect turned out to be their homeroom teacher, Aizawa-sensei. Also known as the underground hero Erasure Head. After Inko gave him up, his focus switched to the underground heroes, which includes Erasure Head. He is kind of giddy that one of the coolest underground heroes is his teacher. There were rumors that Erasure Head works as a teacher. He would love to switch Decay for Erasure any day. Aizawa made it clear what kind of teacher he was. He invited anyone to leave if they were just here to make friends. He then instructed them to switch into their PE clothes and to go to a training ground for a quirk assessment test. Some students, mainly Uraraka, complained that they won't go to the orientation. But Aizawa just said he does his lessons how he sees fit. Arriving there, Aizawa told them the worst performing student would be expelled. This now really pissed off the students. Izuku started to worry. Most of the tests, if not all, won't profit from his quirk. Yet he was not the worst performing. He thanked All Might's training for this. The worst performing was Mineta Minoru, who instantly started to cry. But turns out, Aizawa fooled them. He won't expel anyone. Yet. Following this were the introductions. Bakugo of course called the whole class extras. Of course he did. "My name is Midoriya Izuku. I hope we all will get along," said Izuku when it was his turn. He took off one of his gloves and took a pencil. "My quirk is decay. I can decay anything I touch." As proof, he decayed the pencil. From his fingers, dark marks spread over the wood. Where they passed, the pencil became dust, until it was all gone. He then put the glove back on. "Oi! That's pretty villainous," said Mineta. "Yet he defeated that slime monster a while ago," replied a girl called Yaoyorozu. She didn't introduce herself yet, but everyone knows about the Yaoyorozu heiress and her extraordinaire quirk. If you want villainous, look at Bakugo. There is an American villain with the literal same quirk," said Izuku, before sitting on his spot again. "You know your villains, Deku," added Bakugo. It was clear he didn't want to be compared to a villain. Whatever your quirk is, it doesn't matter. Told them Aizawa. It depends what you do with it. There is no such thing than a villainous quirk. Back in the orphanage, he and Tanjiro were both very tired. Katsubitsu's chaos, dude. Said Tanjiro. You think? My teacher trolled the class. Told him Izuku. Erase your head skipped the orientation and made a quirk assessment test. He said he would expel the worst performing student. You? No. A midget called Mineta. Replied Izuku. I kinda wish he got expelled. Fucker called me villainous and was pervy around the girls in class. You too? Asked Tanjiro. What do you mean? I also have a perverted midget in class. Explained Tanjiro. With the difference that he did get expelled on the first day. Oh my. It was their first lesson taught by All Might. Izuku is up for it, that's for sure. The lesson will be one big exercise. Teams of 2 against another team of 2, heroes versus villains. This exercise is the first use of their hero suits. While Yaoyoro's was very revealing to accommodate her quirk, she needs skin to create after all, his quirk had no requirements. Sure, he has a pouch with extra gloves, but this is it. He can pretty much do what he wants. He consulted All Might for help. As well as Ashido and Yaoyorozu. Theoretically Jiro as well, but she invited herself to the ordeal. This resulted in him just letting the designers that also made Jiro's and Kaminari's outfits free reign. Which means his suit looks similar to his classmates' suits, with a pouch for extra gloves. Izuku was teamed up with Yaoyorozu Momo for the first round, they were the heroes. Bakugo Katsuki and Shiro Honta were the villains. He already had an idea, so he asked his teammate to make a few knives for him. Bakugo felt a bit insulted that he is a villain. His ego ignored that this is just a meaningless exercise. Izuku had to charge the flames. It fits your quirk, that you're a villain. That foreign villain I told you about had the same quirk after all. Bakugo didn't like his comment. The mission started with the villains going into the test building and preparing. They'll hide a bomb. Izuku the while told Yaoyorozu about his plan to take out Shiro. I'll like if we take him out first, so that I can focus on Bakugo. I got a hunch he will make this personal. Explained Izuku. You search for the bomb then, while I distract Bakugo. Do you think Shiro would try to tape it onto the ceiling? Yaoyorozu laughed at the idea, assuming it was a joke. I mean this seriously. Shiro seems to be weird enough to at least attempt this, said Izuku. And you have to admit, the ceiling would be a good hiding spot. Call me Momo, at least for this. My surname is long. Momo told him. She then made walkie-talkies. Here. Thanks, Momo. He said. They then got the go into the villain's lair. Like part of the plan, they split, but keep close. Momo kept herself hidden. They hoped they find Shiro first. Fuck, who is Shiro? I am here, Deku. Izuku rolled his eyes. Why the fuck are you calling me, Deku? I assumed, because Bakubro calls you, Deku. You're such a sheep, Shiro. Said Izuku, before striking with his knife. He saw the color of Shiro's face leaving when he realized there was a blade. Izuku continued to strike swiftly, but Shiro dodged. Shiro was pushed against a wall. He then smacked the knife away and ran. Izuku grabbed a second knife and struck for Shiro. Shiro tried to smack this one out of his hands again, but Izuku grabbed his incoming fist with other hand. He didn't wear gloves and Shiro felt a pain on his hand. He yelled in pain, fucking Decay. Izuku tried to strike again, but Shiro to get away. After the Decay stopped, Shiro was pissed. Are you even allowed to use your quirk like this? No one said I couldn't, argued Izuku. No one tells Bakugo to stop. Shiro threw tape to Izuku. It wrapped around the knife. Shiro pulled it out of Izuku's grasp. Ha! Celebrated Shiro. I got your weapon. You're easily distracted, Shiro, replied Izuku. Shiro felt pain again. He knew it was the pain of decay, as if ants or other bugs would nibble on his skin. He saw that the knife's grip was but dust, and that his tape, decay creeped up on it, reaching his arms. Shiro tried to run. He ran through doors, but fell to the floor. He was wrapped in tapes, but these were not his. He tried to free himself, but he felt one cuff around his healthy arm. Looking up he saw Momo. She then cuffed his second arm. He could not move. Decay was a painful bitch. Momo wrapped him in her own tape and dragged him to the entrance. "I'll check for Bakugo, Momo," said Izuku. "You did great, so far." "Thanks. You two do well," she replied. Izuku continued his way up. He soon got a message from Momo. She was done with Zero and was coming up, looking for Bakugo and the bomb. "Where would an pyromaniac egomaniac like Bakugo hide this bomb?" muttered Izuku. "Oi, Deku. What are you calling me?" he heard said pyromaniac egomaniac complaining. "There you are," replied Izuku. "Let's battle it out, I know you want to." "Die!" yelled Bakugo. Powered by his explosions, he catapulted himself onto Izuku. His opponent jumped to the side, rolling on the ground, away from Bakugo. He threw a knife onto Bakugo. It flew past the explosive boy, stuck in a wall. "Typical Deku, missed," said Bakugo with smug. Izuku just shook his head and pointed to Bakugo's gauntlet. Bakugo saw it was rotting away. "What? How?" "Like this," said Izuku. He charged his quirk, but by far not as strongly as at the entrance exam, when he helped Uraraka. He threw his last knife. The knife was accompanied by black spots, floating besides it. They were pulled by the kinetic energy of the knife. I managed to manifest decay off from my hands. But it can't move without something to leech onto. The knife landed besides the other one, also stuck in the wall. They then heard All Might yell, "The heroes win." The weapon had been found. "Good job, Momo," thought Izuku. After the exam, they were judged. Momo explained Izuku's plan to take out Zero. "Izuku wanted to trick Zero into fetching one of the decay-infested knives," she said. "Decay is so painful," said Zero, now wrapped in bandages by Recovery Girl. "Her quirk isn't enough to heal decay wounds instantly." After a few other teams, they were on their lunch break. Izuku was sitting with Momo and Jiro. Momo wanted to talk with him about their exercise. Jiro tagged along with Momo. They were talking about Jiro's round afterwards. She was in a team with fucking Mineta, against Iida and Koda. Jiro faults the perverted midget for failing. They were just talking, when all of a sudden, an alarm started to ring. The student body acted like a bunch of chicken when a fox is in their chicken coop. Izuku got pressed against a window. He saw no villain, instead he saw people from the media flood the gate of Ua. He had no idea how they managed to get in. He managed to force his way out of the flood of students. He was in a corridor. The corridor was empty, as it won't lead to an exit. Not directly, that is. Izuku decided to take a detour won't hurt. Running down the corridor, he heard someone whisper. "Who is the other ashmaker the slime told me about?" Izuku followed the voice. He took a peek into a room. He saw a figure going through folders of the school. Like when saving Bakugo from the slime monster, his body acted on his own without his mind's consent. He activated the light in the small room. This caught the young man, or older teenager at least, off guard. The teen was thin, his periwinkle hair needed a haircut. His skin was pale and dry. A strong contrast to the dark clothes. Red eyes glowing in his face. He took out a paper and threw it into a misty portal. The man rushed to Izuku and pushed him against a wall. His hands were on Izuku's neck. Izuku was able to stare into the mystery man's red eyes. Red into red, calm against crazy. No, the man was stressed. Izuku heard him whisper, "Why is my quirk not working?" Izuku grabbed the attacker's arms. His quirk wasn't working either. He let go of Izuku and jumped into the portal. Izuku has no idea what the fuck just happened. The crazy school day came to an ending. Izuku was leaving the school building, thinking about the intruder. Why were their quirks not working? Who was this guy and why did he break into UA? What did he steal? "Dekiru!" yelled Uraraka. She ran up to him and said it again, "Dekiru!" "Why are you yelling, Dekiru, Uraraka?" asked Izuku. "Isn't this what Bakugo calls you?" she asked. "No, he calls me, Deku, as in, useless, as in, it is an insult and I doubt you have a reason to call me by an insult," explained Izuku. "If you want to call me by anything but my surname, call me Izuku. Then call me Ochako, and sorry, I wasn't aware," she replied. "Albeit, Dekiru means, can do it," he added, "I kinda like the ring of it. Maybe you can use it as your hero name," she joked. You saved me after all. See, can I copy your English homework? Or, I help you, offered Izuku. You would profit from help a bit more than copying. Fair. Do we go to your place? Asked Ochako. Can't do that, Ochako. You see, he said, unsure how she would react. I'm an orphan, living in a group home. We aren't allowed to have friends over. Oh, then my place it is, she said. Izuku was surprised she still wanted his help. The next day, they made their way to the Unforeseen Situation Joint, or USJ for short. Aizawa-sensei told them they will practice rescue work there. The USJ takes up a lot of space, so it is a bit away from the UA main campus. It is massive, split into many parts, each presenting one situation that requires rescue heroes. Ochako was very excited for this. Her excitement rubbed off on Izuku. Quite a few people, the ones that don't call him a villain, said he would be a good rescue hero. So why not giving it a try? Especially since Izuku isn't that sure what type of hero he wants to be. He never really thought about the other kinds. They met the heroine 13. Her quirk renders her a literal black hole. Izuku thinks her quirk is very cool. If there is time after the exercise, he wants to ask her a few questions about it. While 13 and Aizawa-sensei were explaining what they will do, including that All Might will join them in a bit, that he is running late. While they talked, Zero spotted a misty portal opening behind the teachers. He pointed it out, thinking they were fake villains. Aizawa confirmed them as real. One of the villains was the man that stole some papers. Did he take a schedule? Muttered Izuku. Why ours? The periwinkle villain looked around, before yelled, but All Might is supposed to be here. They are after him, he realized. Ochako agreed with a nod. She had listened to his muttering. She then gestured to something. What is this? He saw what she meant. It was massive, very muscular, and parts of its brain were visible. I have no idea what this thing is, Ochako. The heroes told the class to stay back. They will handle the villains. The villains weren't happy with this. The periwinkle villain said, in gamer slang of all things, looks like we have to grind before the boss appears. Nomu, attack the adults. Kurogiri, split them up. Izuku told Iida to run and alarm the school. The speedster was at first against this, but agreed. The black thing leapt to them. Aizawa pulled some of the class out of its reach. It then attacked him. A dark purple mist was spreading around the class. His glowing yellow eyes were quite creepy. It was a surprise to realize that he, Kurogiri, is somewhat polite. He introduced the group as the League of Villains. They want to kill All Might. Izuku didn't pay much attention to Kurogiri. He saw, guessing it was called Nomu if the mist is Kurogiri. Nomu attacking Aizawa. Their teacher couldn't do shit. Kurogiri was reaching for Izuku and Ochako. Izuku charged Decay, before slinging a blob of decay at Kurogiri. Izuku. It collided with Kurogiri, who started to screech in pain and pull his mist away from Izuku. Like when saving Bakugo or Ochako, his body acted on his own. He ran to Aizawa, said man not noticing his student until the Nomu let go. Aizawa saw it rotting, no decaying away. It turned to dust in front of his very eyes. Unlike Kurogiri, Nomu's screeching got the attention of the periwinkle villain. Aizawa grabbed Izuku with his gear and threw him to a group of his class. Zero and Ochako managed to catch him. Izuku saw Aizawa. The man was angry. Aizawa was attacking the villain. But the villain just grabbed Aizawa and threw him away. Upon contact, Aizawa felt his elbow rotting. The other Ashmaker. He whispered, you, my quirk, your quirk. Before he could grasp a thought, they all heard, no need to fear. Why? Because I am here. All Might was finally there. The hero class became hopeful seeing the pillar of heroism, but the villains started to panic. Kurogiri floated to the periwinkle villain. Shigaraki, what now? The Nomu. I don't know, this wasn't supposed to happen, yelled the villain, Shigaraki. There's a glitch in the game. Game over, we have to leave and restart. Kurogiri opened his portals and the villains jumped in, one after another. Shigaraki was staring at Izuku. He was worried what Shigaraki was thinking, why he was staring at him. Considering what he said, Izuku assumed something about his quirk. He saw Aizawa. He and Shigaraki seemed to have similar quirks. Maybe our quirks cancel each other out, muttered Izuku. He saw Shigaraki leaving the Kurogiri's portal. After the attack on the USJ, they were given a week to rest from the shock. Izuku was bugged by his housemates about the attack. Luckily Mrs. Shiota told them to shut up about it and to leave Izuku alone. This didn't stop Tanjiro, though. After all, they share a room. Aizawa-sensei looked so angry. Probably at the villain, not you. Argued Tanjiro's sister, Nezuko. You saved him. You don't get it. We weren't supposed to act. We were supposed to stay away, said Izuku. I really need to stop acting on instincts. You saved your teacher and decayed this thing, added Tanjiro. What could happen? I could be expelled, replied Izuku. Izuku, your teacher is here. He wants to talk to you. He heard Mrs. Shiota yell. Oh, fuck, said Izuku, leaving the room. His roommate told him to stay calm. He walked down the stairs to the entry and saw Aizawa-sensei. Mrs. Shiota lead them into her office. Izuku was visibly a nervous mess, while Aizawa looked somewhat angry. Midoriya, while you won't be expelled, thank All Might and Nedzu's stubbornness for that. As a punishment for unauthorized interference, you'll be prohibited to partake at the sports festival, said the teacher. Oh, and you will stay next Monday a bit longer. Nedzu and All Might want to talk with you about something, partly about Shigaraki. We've noted you and the villain have similar quirks. Oh, of course. Thank you, said Izuku. I was worried I would be expelled. Oh, you would be if I had the final say, said Aizawa, that and being under the watch of UA, considering how similar your quirk and Shigaraki's seem to be. Not to mention, you were quite willing when harming Zero. With that, Aizawa left. The first day back in school, his class didn't notice how stressed he was about what Aizawa said. Instead they said how cool it was when he decayed the Nomu thing and hurt Kurogiri. After that hype died down, Ochako noted his mood. She asked him at lunch, with Momo, Juru and Shoto listening. He explained Aizawa's visit. The group was a bit shocked. But Juru was busy with a different thought. I'm surprised it isn't called off due to the attack, she said. Momo agreed, but added, Ua probably doesn't want to look weak or like cowards. While the school has a prestigious image, many people search for any dirt on Ua. Now Juru was agreeing. Midoriya, stay calm. The fact that Aizawa-sensei wasn't able to get his will, that All Might and Nedzu cover you, should mean something good. The punishment is still pretty light all things considered. Momo's right, said Ochako, it's not like you're related to that Shigaraki guy, right? That you have the same quirk is meaningless. I hope you are right, girls, said Izuku, albeit, our quirks are pretty similar. And that foreign villain you mentioned has the exact same quirk as Bakugo, said Jiro. There's no way these two are related. Let alone you and that villain, whose quirk is just similar. Izuku, could you convince Aizawa that you partake? Asked Momo. I could ask, but I doubt that will help, replied Izuku. I don't want to risk things. The class was sitting in class, Aizawa telling them news. News that weren't new to Izuku, Ochako, Yaoyorozu and Jiro. The sports festival is soon. I want you all to give your best as the festival is broadcast live on TV. While the first year part isn't the focus of many people, it is relevant that your offers for the internships that happen soon after are based on your performance. Explained Aizawa-sensei. Before the internships start, you have to pick your hero names. I tell you now because I want that none of you picks a stupid name because of time pressure, especially since you will officially chose the name with Midnight of all people. Think about it thoroughly. The 2 weeks before will be more focused on training. For now, independent study time. As soon as Aizawa vanished in his yellow sleeping bag, the class split into their groups. Izuku joined Jiro and Yaoyorozu. Ochako joined them as well. Hero names. My family used up so many name possibilities. Hereditary quirk and such, said Yaoyorozu. Maybe go for something simple. I'll pick headphone jack, said Jiro. I had chosen that name as soon as I decided to become a hero. Can we take names based on our civilian names? Asked Ochako. As I want to be a rescue hero, I do not want to appear distant from the civilians. Unless you mind giving up any privacy, said Izuku. Jiro, did you think of a title? Title? She asked. Yeah, like Midnight is not just Midnight, but the R-rated hero. Midnight. That title. explained Izuku. I would say, I'll pick the orphan hero. After all, I want to be a symbol of hope for the orphans of Japan. Right? Maybe something related to sound? Proposed Jiro. I guess you struggle with the hero name? Yes, admitted Izuku. Well, we have time. I wonder how the internships. Izuku stopped mid-sentence. He realized something. Izuku, asked Momo, is something wrong? I just realized something. Aizawa-sensei said our offers will be based on our performance at the festival. I'm prohibited to partake, explained Izuku. What if I don't get any offers? I'm pretty sure the school has a list of spots for students who don't get offers, said Ochako. There has to be. What if Aizawa sabotaged me? He wasn't happy with the punishment I received, said Izuku. Do you really think a teacher would sabotage a student? Asked Yaoyorozu. Izuku replied with a nod. All Might and Principal Nedzu protected you. Maybe you could talk to them about this. Or any teacher that isn't Aizawa-sensei, added Jiro. Most classes ended. Izuku stayed behind to speak to All Might or Nedzu, whoever he finds first. He called Mrs. Shioda, informing her he will be late. He considered calling Tanjiro, as he dislikes to bother Mrs. Shioda, but Tanjiro isn't the most reliable when it comes to informing Mrs. Shioda. Even his sister won't ask him for such favors. Like he somewhat expected, he didn't find All Might, so he walked to Nedzu's office. Walking in, the principal greeted him. Midoriya. How can I help you? Said Nedzu, or are you here to have a cup of tea with me? No, sir. I wanted to thank you and All Might for lowering the punishment regarding the USJ incident. Said Izuku, I just realized something. You worry that you won't receive an offer for the internships, so you, guessed Nedzu. You see, this punishment is somewhat common. So we have a system for students who don't receive offers. You'll intern with one of the teachers. Unless they are already taken, then we will contact a hero agency we have a deal with. Don't worry, Midoriya. I made sure that our rules won't handicap students. If we won't want you to do an internship, you would have been expelled. Ochako was right. That is great, said Izuku. Well then, I am sorry for bothering you. It is okay. Albeit, All Might offered you something, didn't he? Said Nedzu. He may offer an internship with a hero connected to this. His mentor, to help with the original offering? If that was all, I wish you a nice day. You too, sir. Bye. With that, Izuku left. One thought rushing though his head. Nedzu knows something. Is this good? Arriving home, if you can call a Japanese orphanage a home, his roommate asked him why he took so long. Izuku explained the situation about the sports festival and internship situation. Leaving out the part about All Might, that is. After that, Izuku asked, could I ask about some advice? Depending what type. I'm shit with girls, remember? Replied Tanjiro, this is about a girl, right? No, I just need some opinions on potential hero names. Explained Izuku. I already picked a title, the orphan hero. I'm not sure if that title is a good idea, said Nezuko, walking in, albeit, better than the dude in Tanjiro's school who choose the name, Dynamite. Nezuko is right. The fanboy probably just applied to be a second All Might with that name, replied Tanjiro. Maybe something related to your quirk? Or something that means that you can do it, despite being an orphan, said Nezuko, like, Dekiru. That one is already covered with him having a hero name to begin with, and the orphan, part of the title. Interjected Tanjiro. Something relating to Ash maybe? Maybe Ashmaker? Quite a lot of people call you that, Izu. Maybe. Said Izuku. Nezuko, I'm going to Mr. Hamado's shop, getting hair dye. Mind telling Mrs. Shioda? Not at all, replied Nezuko, if you bring me strawberry mochi and a boba. Nezuko. Scolded her brother. I pay him back, Tan, said Nezuko. Maybe just the mochi. Once again, Mr. Hamado prepacked a bag with dye. He was surprised when Izuku was buying a bit more. Not only Nezuko's full order, he also got mochi for him and Tanjiro. And a small decor cat figurine for Mrs. Shioda, whose birthday is soon. He got the bobas from a cafe on his way back. Fresh boba is just better than the packaged ones Mr. Hamado sells. And Hamado overprices the boba massively. Being back, He gave his friends the goodies and made Tanjiro realize he forgot Mrs. Shioda's birthday, again. The following weeks were spent with training and training. Despite not partaking, Izuku still trained. Besides that he had to, if he won't, there would be a gap in their skill levels. Izuku would like to keep this gap as small as possible. And Zero wanted a rematch, which he lost again. But with lesser injuries. But he has a day off when the festival is. He has no interest to watch life. His friends, he now thinks of the girls as his friends, are okay with this. When the festival rolled around, he and the other orphans were watching the event on TV. It is quite common that students and working people take a day off to watch these events. Unlike the other years, we will also watch the first-year events, said Mrs. Shioda. It is Izuku's class after all. Man, Ashmaker, how did you manage to get banned from this? Said one of the boys. He was one of Izuku's bullies, but since attending UA, he stopped. He was still annoying, though. Honestly, I am relieved that my quirk isn't showcased live all over Japan, said Izuku. The last thing I want is that a villain can prepare for me. What do you mean? Asked Nezuko's friend, Kaide. Most if not all of the classes will be heroes in their own right in 3 to 4 years. Villains prepare for known heroes. Info brokers are a thing, explained Izuku. Considering the USJ incident, it isn't wrong to assume that some villains prepare to face my class. Sounds like you know how a villain thinks, said the ex-bully. Asano, scolded Mrs. Shioda. She is well aware that some of the children called Izuku a villain. She tries to make them stop, but some children are just too stubborn. Just saying, replied Asado. Hey look, the Ashmaker's class starts now. A race? Wondered Tanjiro. How basic. If this Iida guy doesn't win, muttered Nezuko. His quirk literally makes him run fast. How is that Bakugo guy not deaf with that quirk? Wondered Asano. Oh, he is quite tone deaf sometime, said Izuku. If anyone is a villain, it'll be Bakugo. Reckless with his quirk and he. Die, yelled Bakugo though their TV. And this, said Izuku deadpanned. Not to mention his bullying history. Tamura was scanning the screen. Where is the other Ashmaker? He is in class 1A, he has to be there, said Tamura. Where is he? I don't get what's so interesting about him, said Kurogiri. He just has a similar quirk. Decay and similar quirks aren't exactly rare. After the sports festival, Izuku was very pleased to see that Bakugo got beaten. They were now getting their offers for their internships. To Izuku's surprise, despite not being part of the festival, he got a few offers. One letter gave a strong hint why. They know he defeated the villains at USJ, but he didn't care. He was more excited about the fact that the purple-haired guy from the entrance exam managed to get in. Shinso instantly asked why he wasn't at the festival. After Izuku explained the punishment, Shinso was floored. I can't believe Aizawa-sensei tried to sabotage you. He was somewhat nice when he talked to me. He didn't sabotage me. There are systems in place for students who don't partake, said Izuku. According to Principal Nedzu, that punishment is somewhat common. If you say so, I'll intern with Aizawa, said Shinso. Hey, I don't mind. I don't dislike Aizawa for doing his job, said Izuku. He feels like he just lied to himself. Did you think about a hero name? We're supposed to pick them today with Midnight. Yes. I choose the commanding hero. Mind, Midnight and Aizawa won't allow that I call myself Mindfuck, replied Shinso. Well, then it will stay my username on Reddit and such. Mind is a bit bland, said Izuku. What about mindset? I think I smell a pun, said Shinso. While the boys were talking, Izuku's friends butt in. Izu. Who is this? An old classmate? Asked Ochako. Nope, we met at the exam. This is Shinso Hitoshi, one guy with one cool quirk, said Izuku. Shinso, these are Uraraka Ochako, Jiro Kyoka and Yayorozu Momo. Dude, your whole friend group are girls, laughed Shinso. And, asked Izuku. Compared to his friend group in Aldera, 3 girls is a big update. Even though he is already annoyed with the, are you dating them? Questions. Albeit, they are mostly asked by Mineta, the midget perv, and Kaminari. You'll sit besides one of them, there is only one free seat. We better get seated, Aizawa should come any time now, said Jiro. And like someone called the devil, Aizawa arrived, accompanied from Midnight. The time until lunch will be used for Midnight's assistance with your names. After that, internships. Unless you're as incompetent as you waste time to pick your names, then we push the internships to tomorrow, said their teacher. But before that, we have a new student in class. Shinso Hitoshi, from the General Studies course. He will take supplementary classes for now, but when he catches up, he will join all your classes. Midnight, your turn. She clapped her hands to get their attention. Not like she didn't have Minetta's attention as soon as she walked into the class. Listen, I want you all to present your name to the class, including a title and an explanation why you choose it. Write it onto these signs. The first hour was spent with discussions under classmates, until Shinso approached Midnight. He stepped onto the podium and showed the class his hero name. I choose the controlling hero. Mindset, and I know it sounds villainous, but that is the point of the name, said Shinso. Could you explain what you mean? Asked Midnight. I want to prove that even people with quirks marked as villainous can become heroes, stated Shinso. I like your thinking, said Midnight. Names with a message can work, if the message is sound and not contradicting itself. Then, Ochako showed her name, the anti-gravity hero. Uravity, Momo choose a minimalist name, the creation hero. Creata, like she said, her relatives used up the creative options and she does not want to take an honor name. Their classmate Iida had a similar issue. He wants to take an honor name, but he is unsure if the relative allows for it. Said relative is his brother, who is very much not dead, just disabled. Todoroki just choose his given name. Izuku muttered, I knew Todoroki had an ego, but that is a new high. What do you mean, ego? Shoto, asked Momo. Maybe it is that I'm from the opposite of the social ladder, but to me, Todoroki reeks of elitism ego. He's so distant socially. He only uses half his quirk, as if he doesn't need it. Explained Izuku. It feels like Todoroki has a bigger ego than fucking Bakugo. Sound boys looked at Izuku. Bakugo more confused about his statement. Jiro was thinking a bit. Does Todoroki even know that you're an orphan? No, I don't necessarily brag about it, replied Izuku. Even if not, he knows he has it easier than most others with the number 2 hero as his father. Momo's mimic got angry. Do you think similar of me and Iida? We're both from hero families as well. Iida, dunno. I haven't interacted enough with him, replied Izuku. You have proven to me that you're very capable, Momo. He took a deep breath. I am sorry if I had insulted you and your family. Momo was silent for a bit, before she answered, apology accepted. Jiro let out a breath. Disaster avoided. She had hoped these two won't break off. After that, Izuku decided to announce his name. His group was already wondering what he'd choose. I choose the orphan hero. Ashen, said Izuku proudly. Besides the direct nod to my quirk, I want to be a symbol of hope for all orphans of Japan. Why orphans? Asked Midnight. Because I am an orphan, answered Izuku. Oh, was all Midnight said. Iida didn't choose a name, yet. He says he is uncertain. The same goes for Bakugo. After Midnight shot down his ideas. Villain name, villain. Deku and Mindfuck even admitted they had villain names, but mine is a no-go, muttered Bakugo very loudly. Stupid bitch. What was that? Asked Midnight. Nothing. It was lunch. Izuku and his group walked to the cafeteria. On the way, All Might walked to them, demanding to speak to Izuku in private. Izuku split from his group and All Might and Izuku walked into Nedzu's office. All Might told him about his mentor, Gran Torino. Gran Torino could prepare you for One for All, said All Might. Even if you don't want to take the quirk, well, are uncertain, consider my mentor. Even if you don't end up taking One for All, you'll profit from his training. I consider it, said Izuku. Anything else? No, young Midoriya. Albeit, replied the hero. I stumbled over your files. Why didn't your mother sign the release? Doesn't she want that you get adopted? No, she prioritized to save face from society, replied Izuku, like most other parents who give up their children. They don't want them to be adopted, this would make them look heartless. You seem to disagree, stated All Might. Of course. Any orphan will tell you that not signing it is heartless," said Izuku. "No one of us believes that our parents take us back." His class was in their homeroom again. They were given letters containing the invites to the internships. While Izuku had some, he didn't have many. "So few. Is it because of my quirk or my status as an orphan?" he muttered. Shinso answered, "Well, you have slightly more than me, so I guess because you're an orphan." "You're bad at cheering someone up," said Ochako. "I didn't try to cheer him up," replied Shinso. Seeing all these invites, some of them gave a reason why they were sent. They somehow know about the USJ incident, and they are impressed that he managed to beat the thing. None of them really spoke to him, so he decided to accept All Might's offer. He chose fast, so he had time to watch and listen to his class. Like that, Iida chose fast as well. He saw the letter, part of it. Iida chose the first offer for an agency in Hosu he found. Izuku rolled his eyes. Of course he chose Hosu. It isn't a secret what had happened to Iida's brother. While the famous, or more specifically infamous, hero killer Stain didn't kill Ingenium. He maimed the hero. Why does Izuku have the feeling Iida wants revenge? Gran Torino lives in the Yamanashi prefecture, in a big mansion. Izuku was pretty impressed. This made him wonder, who is this man? What is he like? Every time All Might mentioned him, he seemed to be fond of his old mentor, and afraid at the same time. He wants to meet the man that scares All Might. It has to be a massive guy with a powerful quirk to scare the number one. Maybe someone with a quirk that counters one for all? Maybe this Gran Torino has a shock absorption quirk like that one Nomu? All Might somewhat struggled against that one. Izuku stepped into the mansion. All Might gave him a simple description. White suit, yellow accessories and S on the chest, white hair. And he said he should be careful as Gran Torino isn't the youngest anymore. Looking around, he spotted an old man matching that description, but just far shorter than Izuku expected. But that made the fact that All Might was afraid of him even more funny. "I assume you're the kid Toshinori sent?" asked the man. "Well, I am Gran Torino." "Yes, I am the kid. I'm honored to meet you, sir," said Izuku. "Really? Why? You probably haven't heard of me," said Gran Torino. "Correct. But All Might told me about you," explained Izuku. He seemed scared doing so. "I'm just excited to meet the man that scares the number one of Japan." "Fair. Now listen, kid, he is afraid of a reason, albeit he is overplaying it. I will not play around. I'll make you sweat, even if you don't plan on inheriting one for all," said Gran Torino. "But not now. I'll show you the room you're staying in, then we get shopping groceries. You'll carry the backs, I will take advantage of your young bodes." "Okay," agreed Izuku. Like the old hero said, they were getting groceries. Izuku made a short detour getting hair dye. While Gran Torino did notice it, he didn't comment on it yet. In general, he didn't talk much. He just asked Izuku what things he told him they need. He tested Izuku's memory, but Izuku didn't know that. He just assumed the old man needed a memory help. The while in Masutafu, Shinso Hitoshi was following Aizawa. They were in casual wear. "We start with a more boring part of being a hero," explained Aizawa, his intern. "Sometimes, heroes take on duties more akin to what detectives do. Or teachers. Which is the case today." They were walking through a row of small houses. In front of one house was a woman with green hair. She was tending to some flowers. "She looks like Izuku," muttered Shinso. "Green hair and such." "Well, this is Izuku's mother, Midoriya Inko," revealed Aizawa. "But isn't your classmate is an orphan?" "Yes. You see, Mrs. Midoriya never signed a release. We're here to change that," explained Aizawa. "UA policy is that all orphans in the hero course become wards of UA, to protect them. Which your class needs. Without a signed release, he can't be a ward. Which is a risk, considering his quirk," realized Shinso. "Geez. Why didn't she sign? I doubt she will take him back, from what Izuku told me. Parents want to save face. They don't want to look like total garbage," said Aizawa nonchalantly. "In my opinion, not signing the release is worse than signing. I'm sure Izuku would agree." "Oh, he would," whispered Shinso. Arriving at the gate to the front yard, Aizawa said loudly, "Excuse me, Mrs. Midoriya. I'll need to ask you a few questions." She stopped tending her flowers and walked to the gate. Oh, why if I may ask? And who are you? She asked. He showed her his license, Underground Hero Erasure Head, Masutafu Knights Agency and teacher of UA. This, he gestured to Shinso, is my intern. He will shadow me to see what the job entails. If you want, I can send him away for a bit. Not all like interns around. No, I don't mind. Come in, she said, opening the gate. May I offer you 2 tea, or coffee? Black coffee for me, tea for the kid, said Aizawa. Shinso wanted to complain about the tea, he wanted coffee, but he didn't want to make a scene. They walked into the living room. Both heroics sat onto a couch and Inko made the drinks. After they are finished, she gave them to the males and asked why they're here. Your son, Midoriya Izuku, is in my class. You gave him up, but did not sign the release that allows him to be adopted, fostered or be taken as a ward of UA, said Aizawa dryly. May I ask why you gave him up? I assume you know some things already? It was his quirk, his villain quirk, answered Inko. Decay nearly cost me my marriage. I didn't want a villain as a son. Hearing this made Shinso angry. While he heard this often for himself, he never heard it from his parents. Joke's on you, he is in a hero school and interns under All Might's mentor, said Shinso. He sounded annoyed in an attempt to hide his anger and sympathy for his friend. Aizawa gestured him to shut up, but added, it is true. He is, like said, in my class. Oh, what a surprise, she replied. You may not be aware, but UA has the policy that all orphans in the hero course become wards of UA to assure safety. Your son Midoriya Izuku is in class 1A, in my class, hence he is supposed to be a ward of UA, explained Aizawa. But that isn't possible without you signing the release. He handed her an envelope. Inko pulled out a form for said release. She looked confused. She didn't expect for Izuku to become a hero, even one in training. I don't want to sign this, she said. Why, Mrs. Midoriya? You won't take him back, so why not set him free? Why bond him to you like this? Asked Aizawa. It makes no difference for you, but a big one for Izuku. What would my social circle think? They would say I abandoned my son. You already did, muttered Shinso. This time, Aizawa didn't comment, he didn't acknowledge him. In fact, before Aizawa could say anything, the front door opened and none other than Bakugo Mitsuki and her husband walked in. Said man returned a backup key under a flower pot besides the entrance. The Bakugos were shocked to see their son's teacher here. Mr. Aizawa, what are you doing here? Asked Mitsuki. Midoriya Izuku is in my class. Due to UA policy, he has to be made a UA ward as he is an orphan, explained Aizawa. But for this to happen, we need that Mrs. Midoriya signs a release. And what is when she takes him back? Asked her husband. I doubt she would do that, said Aizawa. She said she doesn't want a child with a villainous quirk. Which kinda makes it weird that she won't sign, added Shinso. It makes no sense for her to be bound to a villain, according to her. Mitsuki looked to her friend. She said slowly, as if she was collecting her thoughts, but you told me you only gave him up because you couldn't afford it, that Hisashi was the one who minded the quirk. Mitsuki, Hisashi would have left me if I have kept Izuku, argued Inko. Without him, I couldn't afford to care for Izuku. Then why not signing the release, so that he can be adopted, or become a ward of UA? Asked Aizawa. Not signing the release is handicapping him massively. Not to mention, as you're still connected to him, this may cause villains that are after Izuku to go after you, added Shinso. He has a point, was all Aizawa said. Just sign it, and you have him out of your and your husband's hair. Mitsuki became frustrated with Inko. I can't believe you did that, or didn't do that. The women were arguing. Aizawa cleaned his throat to get their attention. Mrs. Midoriya, I'm wasting my time with you. I will give you around a week to think, then I will return and ask again. UA won't leave you alone until you sign, explained Aizawa. If possible, maybe consult your husband. Due to discrimination laws, you won't be able to take him back, so please just sign. Oh, and Mr. Midoriya's signage will be needed as well. We'll leave, bye. The two heroics left, leaving the women verbally ripping into each other. What now? Asked Shinso. Letting that situation cook. Getting a lawyer, said Aizawa. I got a message. Hero killer stain sightings, in Hosu. There is a chance Nedzu or the president of my agency tasks us with him. Inko. You little bitch. I thought you cared about Izu. That Hisashi was the one judgmental. But it was your stupid pride, yelled Mitsuki. Villain. The kid's in UA's top hero class. Wait, he is a classmate with Katsuki. Why didn't the little shit tell me? Mitsuki. How would you feel if Bakugo had such a quirk? I would still love my son and support him. In fact, I do. Katsuki's quirk is similar to Decay. Both quirks are destructive, admitted Mitsuki. Her husband had taken to call Hisashi, asking if he would sign and convince Inko to do so. The man just said he will come home and discuss this with Inko. Inko. Just sign the damn release. You help no one being a stubborn bitch. If anything, you suck even more just leaving Izuku without options. Inko. Mitsuki. I called Hisashi, said Masaru, Mitsuki's husband. He'll talk to Inko. He'll definitively want to sign, said Mitsuki. He was just Izuku's stepfather and not pleased with Izuku. Masaru, we leave. I don't want to be surrounded by human garbage. Mitsuki. See, our friendship is over, Mrs. Saving face, said Mitsuki, before leaving the Midoriya household. Gran Torino and Izuku were back and sorting in the groceries. While packing out, Gran saw the dye. But again he didn't ask. The color, it wasn't odd, it was so normal, that was confusing. It was green like his eyes. He thought this green was the boy's normal hair color. Many people have matching eye and hair colors. He then had an idea. Maybe his quirk influenced his hair. An old friend of Gran Torino had a quirk that made his hair switch color at random. He was annoyed, so he dyed it solid black. Maybe the child has a similar problem. Child, what was your quirk again? Toshinori told me, but I think I forget, asked the old hero. My quirk is called Decay. I can decay any object I touch and I can create small matter balls that decay everything they touch, explained Izuku. The matter balls are weak and need to leech off other objects' kinetic energy to move, and I need to touch stuff with all 5 fingers to decay. Hence the gloves. Any other effects? Asked Gran Torino. Dry flaky skin, replied Izuku, and an itch. But I got ways to deal with that. Like hair dye. What? Asked Izuku now. Nothing, said the old hero. Let's eat. And don't you dare to say it is too early. I won't, replied Izuku. This is actually a common time to eat in the orphanage as well. Gran Torino was surprised. Toshinori didn't tell him the boy was an orphan. Albeit he didn't mention the kid uses hair dye either. While they were eating, Gran Torino asked how he met All Might. Simple. I got attacked by a villain. All Might tried to rescue me. Albeit, I kinda used my quirk on the villain. That was in my last year of middle school. I wanted to ask if someone with my quirk can be a hero, but he had a time limit, explained Izuku. Gran Torino was listening. I accidentally clung onto him when he started off. He noted me on a roof and I asked my question. He demanded I show him how I use my quirk. After that, he left. What did he answer? He said I can be a hero if I put the work in. He asked me where I lived afterwards, explained Izuku. The villain that attacked me, he fled. It then attacked my bully of all people. He was surrounded by heroes, but no one did shit. Sorry for my language. It is okay. Toshinori wasn't much better your age, replied Gran Torino. Well, I decided to do something. I freed Bakugo and All Might saw this, but after that, I left instantly as I was running late. I managed to see All Might. Deflating. He was unsure what to describe the hero's other form. The next Saturday, while I was shopping for hair dye, I just walked into him. He was in his skinny form. I somewhat recognized him and, muttered a few theories. Which is something I sometimes do and don't really notice. Did you get your theories right? Yes. All Might then told me about his quirk. He wanted to give it to me. He said because I helped my bully, I would be a good successor. And you declined? Yes. Albeit, for a somewhat stupid reason. I wanted to be a hero with my own message, not in second All Might, said Izuku. In case that I change my mind, he offered me to train me a bit. Well, and I should keep my eyes open for any potential candidates. Did you find anyone? Asked Gran Torino. You see, his old sidekick, Sir Night Eye tries to convince All Might to choose a certain boy. Well, My classmate Ishido Mina has the right mindset, but Sato or Kirishima seem to be better at handling the quirk, said Izuku. It is easier to say who is a bad option. That's what I think of the Tagata boy, mumbled Gran Torino. You seem to not like him. Oh, I think he is a good kid, just not right for one for all, corrected him Gran Torino. But he would be a good choice if Toshinori really can't find someone. Maybe I'm just annoyed by Sir Night Eye's demanding behavior. After that, they had been silent. Izuku was confused. He expected the old man to be more rough with him. Not so friendly. Not so calm. He expected an easy-to-piss-off angry oldie who dislikes the youth. All Might is afraid of that man. He doesn't see why. Well, maybe he mellowed out with age. Or Izuku just hadn't seen why All Might is afraid. They hadn't trained yet. But he is happy that Gran Torino hadn't mocked him for being an orphan. Yet, so far, the old hero reminds him of Mr. Hamato in some ways. But even that boils down to old man who doesn't reject him for his quirk and orphan status. Good enough for him. Turns out training with Gran Torino is tough, rough and no piece of cake. Izuku loves it. Gran Torino pushes him to his limit. And gives a nice challenge. He has to beat the old man without relying on his quirk. Albeit, Gran Torino is bothered by this. Midoriya. Why aren't you using your quirk? He asked while sparring. My quirk is Decay. It would kill you, explained Izuku. In this training hall is nothing I could decay to get an advantage. Plus, dodging the man's jets of air was difficult enough. Not to mention, your jets can push me away from anything I could touch. Correct, admitted Gran Torino. Now, we need to pick something up. But that is in a different prefecture. Did you ever travel by a bullet train? No, said Izuku. Well, I once did with my mother, but I barely remember that. Right, you're an orphan, he said. Why did you become an orphan, if you don't mind me asking? Like I said, my quirk would kill you, explained Izuku. She started to see me as a villain, so she gave me away. Never signed the release. If this means something. Don't think she'll take you back, said Gran Torino. Hardly any parents sign these to look good in front of society, to appear less or trashy. It means nothing. Well, it means she may get approached about one of UA's policies. Policies? Asked Izuku. What policy? When Toshinori was in UA, there was a policy that orphans in the hero course become wards of UA, for protection, explained Gran Torino. I'm not sure if this still exists, but I see no reason why they would get rid of it. Does that mean that there are enough orphans in the UA hero course to prompt the existence of such a policy? Muttered Izuku. What? Did you think UA has a no orphan rule like Saijin? Well, not an official one. Kid, first piece of advice, stop making being an orphan your whole identity, he said. If you do that, you'll be more free in thinking. Now let's go. Iida and Native were scanning the city of Hosu for the infamous hero killer, but they found nothing. But they were found by a black thing, brain visible. While Native had no idea what it is, Iida knew pretty well what it is. Anomu. What is it doing here? Yelled Iida. Native had no idea what Anomu is, but from Iida's reaction he knew it is bad news. And something they need to fight. But before they could attack it, it ran away. Native said it is a cowardly thing. I doubt it is afraid of you too. Looking around, they saw none other than Stain. His katana's dripping red already. The bullet train was fast, like a bullet. Not creative of a name, isn't it? The journey was relaxed, despite the stating, until they passed the Hosu. They were started because they were in their hero suits. Not that Izuku's suit looked like much, like Kaminari's and Jiro's. His suit looked pretty casual. Izuku mentioned that some of his classmates should be in Hosu for their internships. Before Gran Torino could answer, the train crashed into something. The train was demolished and the doors weren't working. Gran Torino yelled, Ashen, I give you the authorization to use your quirk. Yes, Gran Torino, replied Izuku, realizing why he was given authorization. The surrounding civilians got hyped when they realized that a hero and a hero in training were in the train. While Gran Torino calmed the civilians in the train, Izuku decayed the doors and walls to free them. When he was out, he spotted a small Nomu. Unlike the one at the unforeseen simulation joint, that one was thin and bony. It attacked Izuku upon seeing it. Izuku took off his gloves and dodged the Nomu's claws with a roll. The Nomu turned around and attacked Izuku. He ran away, to bait it away from the train and civilians. When it was far enough, he ran up a wall and jumped off of it, making a backflip and landing on the Nomu, decaying it. He returned to the train and Gran Torino. He continued with the other wagons, to open them up. When done, he and Gran Torino checked what caused it. They saw other heroes chasing Nomus, including Endeavor. "Fucking Nomus in Hosu," muttered Izuku. Gran Torino, while he never faced one, got told about them by Toshinori and Izuku. He has no idea what they are, if these things are born like this or were created somehow. Moving though Hosu, keeping up with Gran Torino is pretty difficult. They ran into Todoroki, who was interning with his father. Izuku wanted to mock him for using his nepotism, but the fact that there were multiple Nomus out made him realize this is the wrong moment to mock his climate. Luckily Todoroki explained to his father what a Nomu is, as well as he could. Gran Torino and Izuku joined the Todorokis. Gran Torino's quirk was handy to jump into the air and get a bird's eye view of the situation. The old man managed to spot not a Nomu, but Stain cornering a downed hero and someone else. Endeavor decided they have to face the killer. The other heroes could handle the Nomus. They followed the direction Gran Torino gave them, before finding Stain. Todoroki, Shoto and Izuku were shocked to see that their classmate facing the infamous killer. They were behind Stain, who didn't see them, but Iida did. Izuku took a metal marble from his pouches on his suit. He leached a bit of what he dubbed decay essence onto it, and snipped it to the killer. It hit Stain on the left shoulder, making him drop a katana of his. Stain was surprised by the small marble and turned around. "More fakes," mumbled Stain. Before he could attack, Endeavor sent a flame into his direction. Stain dodged it and jumped off a wall. Gran Torino pushed him away with a jet of air. Endeavor then asked the old hero for why Izuku used his quirk. "I gave him authorization," explained Gran Torino. "Right," replied Endeavor. "Shoto, I give you authorization as well." Izuku fetched the katana and sought Iida. He saw the hero behind him, a very injured native. Iida didn't give him any mind, instead he kept his eyes on Stain, who was smacked against a wall. Stain stood up, seeing the katana in Izuku's hand turn to dust. With his remaining blade, he attacked Izuku, who, on Gran Torino's and Endeavor's commando, started to run away from the villain. The heroes chased after them. Gran Torino stayed back, getting help for native. "Running away, Duster," mocked Stain. Says the butter knife guy who feels the need to attack a first-year heroics student, shot Izuku back. "Butter knives. I show you what these butter knives can do," said Stain. He stopped running and attacked Endeavor and Shoto. He slashed the fire users, in one circular swoop. He then lighted the blade. Izuku was confused to why, but when the two Todorokis fell to the ground, unable to do anything, he realized why. "Blood manipulation quirk. Damn," muttered Izuku. Stain was about to behead Shoto. Izuku, like when Bakugo was attacked, rushed in front of them and touched Stain's shoulder. The decay spread and Stain took steps away. "You. Do yourself a favor and leave, stop playing hero," spat Stain. "Playing hero? If I would pretend, you really think I'll save two people I hate?" said Izuku, annoyed. "Believe me, I would have loved for my bully to fall to that slime villain and Shoto to die to you, but as a hero, I have to save them." "You hate me?" whispered Shoto. Stain lowered the katana he had left. "I guess that is heroic." "Wait, you're the kid that beat up slime? Well, the quirk matches, boy. Then I'll let you life. But these two hotheads won't." "No," deadpanned Izuku. She ran up to Stain and just slapped him in the face, decay spreading in his face. Endeavor had to look away, even he can't watch the face decay. Shoto's mind was still stuck at the "Izuku hates him" part. Izuku was walking to Stain and decayed his other katana. He then put his hands together. The decay stopped, before it could kill the vigilante. "Wow, I've never expected that the great Stain gets nearly killed by an orphan with a villain's quirk." "You're an orphan," managed Stain to speak. "Not only that, it is the reason why I aim to be a hero," said Izuku. "Not only do I want to prove that even orphans, the unwanted trash of society, can be a hero, but that at least one hero cares about all the other orphans. Unlike trash like Endeavor. He wanted to say more, but he hesitated. Endeavor wanted to complain, but he couldn't. The while Shoto wanted to laugh at that mention. Izuku proceeded to decay his calves, to make walking more difficult. They then heard the police come, followed by Gran Torino. The old hero was quite floored when he saw the partly decayed Stain, his intern, standing over him. Gran Torino told him to get going. They have some of these Nomus to handle. Endeavor agreed when he realized he was able to move. Shoto also regained control over his body. He wanted to ask Izuku why he hates him, but Endeavor demanded that their ways split now. Gran Torino and Izuku were rushing through the city, looking for anything not supposed to be here. They were on a roof. Gran Torino wanted to ask something he noted, but before he could, a winged Nomu swooped down and took Izuku. Said intern's first instinct was to decay the Nomu, but no one would appreciate if he falls into his death. Instead he readied himself to see wherever the Nomu is dragging him to. To his surprise, onto a different rooftop, which hosted a portal, an eerily familiar one. It was clear that this portal was made by the misty villain Kurogiri. The Nomu dragged him into it. He was unaware Gran Torino followed him in. He saw he was surrounded by the League. Kurogiri, Shigaraki Tamura and a few other villains. He was too afraid to sense an airstream behind him. The room was dark and full of boxes. "So, you managed to damage Stain like that?" said Shigaraki. "If we didn't need the man, I would have been impressed." "I do not mean to impress you," countered Izuku. "Now, why am I here, hand job?" "What did you call me?" asked Shigaraki, his eyes turning crazy. "Hand job. I'm not afraid of you, your quirk ain't working on me," countered Izuku. "But so does yours on me," said Shigaraki. "Not that I want to harm you, I offer you to join our league." "The hell makes you think I would join your loser club?" asked Izuku. Shigaraki tried to ignore the insult. "Simple. We are alike. We are both branded villains due to decay." "Yet I attend UA's hero course," argued Izuku. "The math ain't mathing. And, you know, a news helicopter was broadcasting your match with Stain," said Shigaraki. "They only see your quirk. And your declaration that you'll love to see two of your class perish, they see a villain." Fuck, he is right. Not to mention, your homeroom teacher, who according to a source really wants to expel you, gives you a hard time for our quirk," said Shigaraki, coming closer. "You will lose everything, like I did." "We aren't alike." "I think we are. The same quirk. I see you have red shoes like me," said the villain. "We are alike." A door opened and a massive man walked in. Said man's head was just one mask, but his mouth was visible. He wore a business suit. Despite the odd combo, the man radiated a pressure, a presence like none other, like the polar opposite of All Might's aura. "Ah, you must be Midoriya Izuku, the other Ashmaker," he said. "Quite a coincidence that you and Tamura have similar quirks. Unless it isn't just a coincidence." "Who are you?" asked Izuku. "I am All for One, but you can call me Sensei, if you accept Tamura's offer." "Ain't happen anytime soon," replied Izuku. "Soon? But not never," spoke the villain. "I did some research on you, child." Midoriya Izuku, 15 years of age. Born to Midoriya Inko, stepfather Midoriya Hisashi, was given up after quirk decay manifested. They never signed a release, so you were never able to be adopted. Not that many would adopt someone with a curse as a quirk. Should I continue? Izuku was frozen. How in the world does he know that? Your information is faulty, Hisashi. Is not your stepfather? Oh, he is. Inko likes her white lies to look good in society's eye. Now, you didn't say no. I know that you applied for any school and any course to get ahead. I know your motivation to be a hero," said All for One. "The whole proving orphans thing is just a show. You just want to show your parents that you aren't a hero. They didn't sign. You think they may take you back if you become a hero. This is also why you dye your hair green. You blame it for your misfortune." He couldn't form a thought. "I offer you a place where you are accepted. I also offer you a new quirk," spoke All for One. "I just demand in exchange that you pledge your loyalty to your brother, Tamura." "My what now?" asked Tamura. "What are you talking about, Sensei?" "Oh, after discovering that Hisashi isn't the father, I got curious. Your quirks are too similar to be a coincidence," explained All for One. I discovered Mrs. Midoriya had an affair with your father, Tamura. You two are half-brothers. This can't be. I can't be related to such a piece of shit, yelled Izuku. Hey, complained Tamura. As being brothers could explain our quirk similarities, as well as our love for red shoes. Someone like me, family, how nice. Sure that you don't want to join the league, brother? I am as sure as erase your head is rude, said Izuku. Well, if you change your mind. Kurogiri, spoke All for One. As a peace offering and sign of our goodwill, I let you go. I am certain you will find us if you change your mind. Izuku felt another stream of air, but this time, it pulled him out of the portal. He saw it was one very scared Gran Torino. We leave, now. Endeavor tried to take credit for capturing Stain, but no one sane believed this. He was sitting in Gran Torino's home, said man making tea. Izuku the while was just sitting there and silently crying. And muttering, fuck. This can't be, and, this isn't true. I can't be a villain, he muttered to himself. Kid, I know All for One, kinda. For all we know, this may just be a lie to screw with you. Said Gran Torino, giving him a tea. But seriously, relax. We can test if you are related. If you are, does it really mean anything? Well, the only person deciding if you become a hero or a villain is you. Don't let anyone take that choice away from you. Said Gran Torino. If anything, you should worry about how you beat this Tamura with your quirk not working on him. Taking one for all may help. Izuku looked up to the hero. You think this is a good idea? Better than what you do now, he replied. Now, the hair dye thing. Please stop. Midoriya won't take you back. Keeping them green will just hurt you more. But, no, can I at least use up the dye I brought? Asked Izuku. Hair dye is kinda expensive. Fine. A while later, the police force comes. Iida and Todoroki are offered to take blame for Stain and be punished or to give credit to Endeavor, not that this would work, and get off scot-free. Izuku, unlike his idiotic classmates, choose to take the blame. The punishment, at first, seemed not too bad. He has to work in an agency of underground heroes. While he wants the spotlight to prove himself, being an underground hero may fit his quirk better. Then he realized Erasure Head pretty much runs that agency. He regretted his choice as soon as he realized that. A part of him hopes that All Might and Nezu help him out again with this headache of a teacher. Maybe he should request to transfer into 1B? Back at the orphanage, he was bombarded with questions. But Mrs. Shiota shot them down and demanded that they all leave Izuku alone. She didn't comment on his speech to Stain. She just handed him the number of a few psychiatrists. Asato, a bully of the home, asked if he really wants them to die. Izuku didn't answer. When Tanjiro asked, he said no. After the turbulent internships, the class had a lot to talk about, but most was just about Izuku's fight against Stain. Well, Shoto didn't speak. His brain was still stuck at the Izuku hates him part. After that terrible first day back, All Might wanted to speak to him. The hero said, Gran Torino told me about your talk with All for One. I can't believe you already met him. I can't believe he just didn't take your quirk, like he did many others. I doubt Decay is much of use for him, said Izuku. Do you really think Shigaraki and I are related? I don't know. I just know I still want to give you my quirk, said All Might. Your quirk can't touch Shigaraki. You'll need it. Especially if the league is more eager than just a one-time offer for you to join their league. They heard a clearing of a throat. Turning around, they saw Aizawa. How much did you hear? Asked All Might. Just that there is a villain who can take quirks, that the problem child is apparently related to that villain. That you can pass on your quirk. Replied Aizawa. I have questions, you will answer me. But we better talk about this with Nezu. Let me guess, the rat knows? Most of it, yes. Admitted All Might. Nezu didn't react to much of what he heard. Aizawa on the other hand. You know what? I won't put much energy into this. I need to get Midoriya Inko to sign that damned release, he said. What? My mother? A release? Asked Izuku. Simple. UA has the rule that all orphans in the hero course become wards of UA. It is a safety policy. Explained Nezu, one you clearly need, Midoriya. The following days, Izuku started to sit lesser with the girls and more with Shinso, not that he would mind. Shinso didn't push much about the events of Izuku's internship. He thought Izuku was bothered by the stained thing. He was so wrong. He was also wrong to assume that it is a good idea to talk about his internship. You see, I interned with Aizawa. We visited your mother. Aizawa tried to get her sign a release. Told him Shinso. She said your quirk made your hair periwinkle. Hair dye. Explained Izuku. I hate my hair color. I'm not gonna judge you, said Shinso, but I would like to see your natural hair color. Well, it isn't the color my quirk makes it to be, replied Izuku. This green is the closest I got to match my birth hair color. Oh well. Too soon for their liking. The midterm exam was nearing. Izuku and Shinso spent time together learning and training. At one point, Shinso invited Izuku to his home, which meant he met Shinso's parents. They were very friendly and welcoming. They felt like polar opposites to his own parents. Not that he remembers much of them at this point. Why do you hate Todoroki? Asked Shinso while trying to understand math. He is a nepotistic elite, answered Izuku. I just can't like him. He has a bigger superiority complex than Bakugo. Does he? He has the social grace of a sack of flour, but I've never seen him put you or anyone down for your social status, said Shinso. Are you sure you aren't just pushing your anger onto him? As a scapegoat? This made Izuku thinking. Todoroki had never done something. He never really interacted with the boy. He just disliked Todoroki essentially being the opposite of him. He has a family, he is rich, and he gave off the feeling he got everything handled. Maybe Izuku is just jealous. After that study session, he was in thought. When he returned to the orphanage, he only spoke when Tanjiro asked how his date was. That wasn't a date, you idiot, argued Izuku. Dude, you're so deep in thought and muttered a name. If that isn't a crush, then I don't know what it is. Izuku hit him with a pillow in the face. One day, discussing their training plans while lunch, Todoroki Shoto sat onto their table. Momo, Jiro and Uraraka, already sitting there, were a bit very much weirded out. At this point, it is no secret that Izuku dislikes the dual quirk user. Todoroki wanted to speak up, but Izuku was faster. Todoroki, I want to apologize. I realized my hate for you were just frustrations I pushed onto you for no real reason but jealousy. Explained Izuku. I am sorry. I do not hate you. Why jealous? I accept your apology, Midoriya, said Todoroki. But seriously, why are you jealous? You have a family, you aren't stuck in Japan's system. You are rich, said Izuku. You have a heroic quirk. You have everything I don't have. Again, I am sorry. Todoroki had no idea what he is jealous about, but he just accepted the apology and left. The theoretical exams weren't noteworthy. Besides Siro nearly having a mental breakdown, and Kaminari definitively having one. The practical exam, on the other hand, was a different story. They were sorted into double teams, and have to fight one of their teachers. They have to fight a professional hero. Well, they either have to go to a gate, which the hero blocks, or cuff them. Izuku and Shinso, who were matched together, were nervous. They didn't have to fight All Might. Worse, they had to face Aizawa. While Izuku just doesn't like the man, Shinso is very familiar with his training regime. Izuku told his friend, Hitoshi, we cuff him. You're crazy, Dusty, said Hitoshi, but I think I like this about you. How do you want to do it? He will block your quirk. Unless you make him blink, replied Izuku. Or I decay something and throw ash into his eyes. That could work, admitted Hitoshi, before they walked into their exam. I hope it works. Both were ready, standing in front of their teacher. One more confident in their plan than the other. Hitoshi does not think Izuku is weak, the opposite, really. He just doesn't know how they could get the cuffs on their teacher. The problem isn't even the quirk deactivation. The capture gear is. Hitoshi had started to learn how it is used, so he knows it is a pain in the ass to avoid. When they got their go, the two heroes in training charged to their teacher. Like expected, Aizawa grabbed onto Izuku and deactivated his quirk. Izuku was stuck in the gear. Hitoshi remembered the plan, if you can call it a plan. While Izuku was struggling with the gear, Hitoshi came from behind and asked, Aizawa-sensei, did you threaten Mrs. Midoriya to sign the release? Of course not, replied Aizawa before his mind had gone numb. While the man was prepared for Hitoshi's quirk, he was not prepared for such a question. This is too easy. he said. Sensei, blink. Aizawa awoke from the trance and Izuku could use his quirk again. He grabbed onto the gear, it decayed. Aizawa was jumped when he noticed. Hitoshi used the opportunity to cuff the man. Really easy, said Izuku, I didn't even need to throw ashes into his eyes. Thank God not, muttered Aizawa. After the class learned who passed and who didn't, they started to prepare for the camp they will visit to better their skills. The class, partly as a bonding activity, was shopping. But Izuku and Hitoshi were mainly keeping to themselves. Izuku can hear Tanjiro already asking how the date was. And he already can see how he hits Tanjiro with a pillow like last time. Maybe he can convince Nezuko to join. Anyway, it happened that Izuku and Hitoshi were sitting alone, when Hitoshi had to leave for a bit. While Izuku was waiting, none other than Shigaraki Tamura was taking the seat in front of him. Hello, baby brother, said Shigaraki, way too cheerful for Izuku's liking. Just because the old man says we're brothers doesn't mean shit, replied Izuku. I know this is probably just a lie to manipulate me. Oh, it is the truth, Izuku. Just because you dislike something doesn't mean it is false, said the villain. You may not like it, but we are alike. We are not. We have the same quirk, said Shigaraki. The same? Can you control what you decay? Can you stop it? Asked Izuku. Can you bound a bit of it onto objects and sling it away? Our quirks are not the exact same, even if you don't like it. Stop using my logic against me, said Shigaraki. A shame you still dye your hair, but at least you have a good taste in shoes. Whatever, Shigaraki, said Izuku, what do you want? First of all, call me Tamura. Secondly, the offer still stands, said Tamura. And I have a question. When you spoke to Stain, who was that bully? Why do you ask that? Asked Izuku. As your older brother, it is my job to take care of you, replied Tamura. Especially if you still do so many wrong decisions. Izuku just sighed. Albeit, Sensei gave me a few pointers. What you mean? Asked Izuku worried. Oh, just what school you attended. Aldera Middle School, said Tamura, broke in, checked documents. You and Bakugo Katsuki had a few confrontations, Judging from what we saw of your class, that bickering still exists. And? Asked Izuku. What now? Bakugo bullied me, and? He stopped, long time ago. Still. Izuku sighed again. Don't you think threatening him will make me loyal to you? If anything, it is the opposite. Why? Should I threaten your boyfriend? Asked Tamura smugly. Don't you dare touching Hitoshi, said Izuku angrily. If you do that, I will take one for all and slap you into the next week. He then realized what he said. I mean, Hitoshi and I are just friends. Stupid Tanjiro pulled that joke so often. But these words didn't reach Tamura. He just focused on 3 words. One, for, all. One for all, you say? He asked. Do you have it? Not yet, I mean, I've heard enough, said Tamura. Again, offer is open. I am sure Sensei would love to get that quirk back. Before Tamura could leave, Hitoshi returned. He asked, who the fuck are you? Just Izu's older brother, replied Tamura and left. Hitoshi looked to Izuku. Do you really? You know I was a bit overwhelmed the last few weeks, since my internship? The confrontation with Stain? Asked Hitoshi, assuming this is the problem. What does this have to do with the weirdo? Nothing, because it is not the Stain incident, explained Izuku. After that, Gran Torino and I were chasing after a few Nomus in Hosu. One of them kidnapped me, brought me to the League of Villains, including that fucker you just saw. That was one of the villains? Asked Hitoshi in shock. This was Shigaraki Tamura. The leader, the other Ashmaker and potentially my half-brother, explained Izuku. At least this is what the League claims. I doubt it is false. I wish it is false. Hitoshi leaned back, taking in what he just heard. I understand if you don't want to talk to me anymore. You're stupid, said Hitoshi. I want to be with you. Even if you're related to that lunatic, it won't mean much. You aren't family just because you share a few genes. Your parents, as painful of an example it may be, do you see them as family? After they abandoned you? Izuku was thinking. Did he think of them as family? I don't know. I think the answer is no, said Hitoshi. Now let's go, Izu. The drive to the camp was boring. If you ignore Todoroki being a weirdo and Bakugo being anger in human form. Momo was relieved that Izuku apologized to Todoroki. After a while, they arrived at the forest. They had to get through in time, otherwise they won't get dinner. A good part of the class was annoyed with that ruling. Izuku considered to just decay his way through the forest, but he wasn't sure how well liked that idea would be. So he, Hitoshi, Momo and Jiro walked though in a group. It didn't take long for one of their classmates to yell. Then they saw it, a monster. Izuku rushed to it and catapulted himself from a tree. Tackling it, he decayed it, before he realized what it was. Mud? Could be worse, he said, getting up and trying to rid himself of the dirt. So, it is harmless, said Jiro, or just a decoy? Probably. This is a school event with the goal to make us better heroes, said Hitoshi. I doubt our teachers think this is a challenge for us. This has to be a decoy. Izuku was thinking. What Hitoshi said was logical. If he thought about it, where is Class 1B? Unless. Guys, I think Class 1B will do something. What? Prank us? Guessed Yaoyorozu. Well, the class needs to do something. We didn't see them yet and I am sure Vlad King won't say no to a little competition between the classes. They heard something in the trees. Keep your eyes open, told them Izuku. He noted Momo created something. A small net thrower. She then aimed into a tree. Falling out was an eye, tangled in the webs. Izuku just stared at it. The fuck is this? Looks like Tokage Setsuna's eye. She is in Class 1B, one of the recommendation students. Explained Yaoyorozu. She can split her body apart. Lizardy, lizard lady. Lizardy is such a bad name, muttered Izuku. He decayed the web and held the eye in 2 fingers. If her quirk emulates lizards on steroids, can she regrow parts? She bragged about it, so yes, she replied. Don't tell me you want to decay her eye? This can go wrong, midoriya. He grabbed the eye with his whole hand. Opening it, ash fell down. Hapala, was all he said. They heard a screech not far away and followed it. There they found Tokage on the ground, clearly in pain. She was pressing a hand against her eye socket. Izuku said to his group, your theory was true. Hitoshi, would you mind? Hitoshi at first didn't realize what Izuku meant, but he then realized what Izuku meant. He walked up to Tokage and asked her, what is your class doing? Why should we were tasked to scare you as a test. Well, a test for us as well, but different. She said monotone. We agreed, of course, to prove that we can best you. Well, not Izuku-kun. What the heck is that supposed to mean? Asked Izuku. Answer that, Tokage. Said Hitoshi. Izuku-kun, have you considered transferring to our class? We noted that Bakugo called you a villain. I don't think you're villainous, replied Tokage. Do you have a crush on Izuku? Asked Hitoshi, sounding irritated. While Hitoshi was irritated, Izuku was somewhat disgusted. He just isn't attracted to girls. Yes. Ew. Said Izuku. That word caused Jiro to laugh. Seriously, ew? She asked, laughing. Hitoshi started to laugh as well, which meant he lost control over Tokage. Tokage likes midoriya and he just says, ew, I can't anymore. Tokage got embarrassed. What should I say? I'm just not into girls, said Izuku. Now, let's continue to find the camp. Hitoshi was surprised by that statement. He felt good about it. Right. Agreed Yaoyorozu. The group ran and left Tokage embarrassed and with one eye less. They arrived quite early at the camp. Their class and Class 1B arrived a bit later. The only one really being late was Mineta, the midget pervert. After they were introduced to the wild pussycats, a team of rescue heroes, they were tasked to cook their dinner. Hitoshi and Izuku worked together. So did Yaoyorozu and Jiro. They heard Bakugo telling Todoroki he sucks at cutting chives. To be fair, Todoroki really sucks at it. While cooking, Izuku met the nephew of one of the pussycats. To Izuku's surprise, the kid really hates heroes. Considering his aunt, quite the irony. He tried to the boy, Izumi Kota, but he won't let Izuku. Izuku left him alone and continued cooking. Hey, villain touch, your turn helping this hopeless case, yelled Bakugo. I'm done with Canada flag. Since attending UA, Bakugo and Izuku distanced themselves from each other, even in their rivalry. Which includes Izuku has a more normal extra insult. He isn't sure if it is a downgrade or an upgrade. What happened to Ash villain? That's reserved for the hand job, Shigaraki. Yelled Bakugo his reply. Now help the flag. Izuku walked to Todoroki, muttering another apology. Koda watched this surprised. Villain? The next day, while training, Koda saw how a one-eyed girl and the guy with the wraps were avoiding Izuku. The more you watched Izuku, the more he got confused. It wasn't until Izuku was training to redden his quirk, controlling if his touch decays without the need for gloves, that Koda got a slight idea why he is called a villain, and what happened to the girl's eyes. From then, he won't leave Izuku's side. Izuku was now the one confused and Hitoshi was annoyed. Koda's aunt just thought it was cute and hilarious. Izuku and Hitoshi, with the help of Momo, were testing the limits of Izuku's quirk. By lunch, they had the following realization. Your quirk needs a new name. It is similar to Shigaraki's decay, but it isn't the same. Said Momo, his quirk is touch only, but you can throw the decaying energy you create. But what to call it? Replied Izuku, accepting her statement, corruption. Bad name, not really fitting. Said Hitoshi. Your quirk is more the essence of decay. Decaying essence? For now, I will use that name. Agreed Izuku. Apropos name change, Aizawa told me that we get the option to change our hero name before our work experiences start. Said Hitoshi. I will try to submit mindfuck again. Seriously? Asked Momo. Do you want to ruin your reputation before you even graduate? I control people's minds. My reputation is already rock bottom, and mindfuck is more to the point what I do. Said Hitoshi to her. Also, your reputation will be close to midnight's, so you have nothing to talk on. Momo slapped him and left. Looks like it is your turn to apologize to her, joked Izuku. The third day on the camp started with a bang. Momo created small metal objects at rapid speeds and threw them into the air. Izuku was shooting his decaying essence at them. Well, marbles which the essence leached onto. Aiming for an extra massive pan, he threw the essence without a marble to hijack the kinetic energy for the movement. Having realized he decayed the pan without a helping marble, he started to celebrate, which caused the other pots and pans to clash onto the ground. Hence the day starting with a bang. Multiple even. Does that mean you no longer need my marbles? Asked Momo. Until I get a hang of this, I will need them, said Izuku. I want to test something. Momo, could you make a training dummy and a knife? I need a break for the dummy, said Momo. I make you a sandwich the while. Sounds good. His class was tasked to move through the forest for a practice. Hitoshi assumed this is a repetition of the Class 1B scare. Momo, Izuku, Jiro and Hitoshi stayed together when they ran into Tokage's Setsuna. Not you again, she yelled, turning around. Jiro rolled her eyes, what a bitch. To be fair, getting her eye decayed was probably pretty painful, said Izuku, and Siro is still nervous around me. Did you ever hurt someone in your old school? Asked Jiro. At most I decayed a few pencils, admitted Izuku, or waited until school is over. Momo, could you make a few small tracking devices? Of course, sticking ones are, sticking sounds good, said Hitoshi. We should mainly use the devices on Class B members with a high mobility, proposed Jiro. I can track the rest. She then slammed her headphone jacks into the ground. She looked up in shock. Could it be that the teachers and pussycats support Class B this time? Maybe, guessed Hitoshi. He then took a sniff. Do you smell this too? I didn't decay anything, said Izuku, as if he was accused. He then smelled it as well. Wait, I smell it. Fire? I doubt Todoroki used his full quirk for once, said Hitoshi. I doubt Todoroki could make blue flames, Hitoshi, said Izuku. What? Hitoshi saw blue flames. Oh fuck, that isn't Todoroki's doing. Here's Mandalay speaking. Villains are attacking the forest. They heard Mandalay speak in their head. Students, you are allowed to use your quirks in self-defense. And cooperate, no class clashing. Try to come to the camp. Well, that explains it, said Izuku. Fucking villains, that much about this being a secluded, hidden area. Koda. Someone has to find my nephew, Koda's gone. Surprised the Mandalay with a mental yell. Should we? Jiro tried to ask when she saw Izuku rushing away. I take that as a yes. Not surprising, considering that Izuku is seemingly the only one not hated by the kid, said Momo. She started to smell something funny, then made masks. I think we should stick tracking devices onto each other in case we get split. Izuku was rushing through the forest, decaying trees he couldn't dodge. He ran up a hill, then climbed onto a tree. He was sure he saw Koda sitting up on a mountain. He made his way there. He wasn't sure if he should prioritize to reach Koda fast or not to be detected by villains. He got a feeling the villains are the same that attacked the unforeseen simulation joint, the same behind the Hosu attack, the same lead by Shigaraki Tamura, his brother. He still struggles to believe that part, but maybe it is just wishful thinking that it isn't true. Climbing the mountain, he utilized a trick he may have copied from Mina, matching her initial idea for her hero name, Ridley Hero. Acid Queen. He still doesn't get why Midnight shut that one down. He calls it the Ridley Grip. Similar to Mina making holes in walls to climb, he focuses decaying essence on his fingertips to make holes. This move is the main reason why he practiced to stop the decay. He did telephone Mina about the move she inspired, which resulted her in naming her variation the same, allowing him to use the same name. Climbing up, he found Koda. The kid was out of breath. Mandalay asked to search for you. We're under attack. Villains. He felt something heavy land near them. Izuku then saw him. Or more like it. The thing was just pure muscle. He saw Koda starting to cry. Ah, the kid recognizes me, said the villain. Izuku was charging up decaying essence. He then asked, mainly as an attempt to distract the villain, who the fuck are you, muscle man? I am Muscular, the killer of the Waterhose heroes. He replied, now scatter, Ashmaker, I have a job to finish. Ashmaker? Was Izuku asking. Yeah, the boss told us about you, replied Muscular, moving closer. Now scatter, the boss won't like it if I kill you. Too bad, said Izuku, starting to rush to Muscular. Muscular's muscle bands were extending. Izuku was grabbing them, decaying them. Fuck, yelled Muscular. Koda, run and hide, said Izuku. Koda did as he was told. Damned. Well, at least I've got you, said Muscular. His muscles were wrapping around Izuku, until he could only slowly decay them. With Izuku in his grasp, Muscular left the mountain. Your luck Shigaraki wants you alive. If not, I would end you for making me lose the kid. Momo, Jiro and Hitoshi were rushing around the forest. Hitoshi securely kept a tracker in his clothes. They walked into some of their classmates and even some students of Class 1B. Momo made them masks ask well. Do you think Izuku found Koda? Wondered Momo. Maybe, I don't know Ha. Hitoshi was falling into a purple void. Jiro and Momo recognized it as the villain Kurogiri. I am sorry for the disturbance, but we need to borrow your friend, he said, before leaving. I hope you understand. We do not, yelled Jiro, before attacking him with her sound waves. But the waves hit nothing, as Kurogiri was already gone. This can't be good. Bakugo Katsuki's head felt heavy when he woke up in pure dark. The last thing he remembers was fighting a short villain and that shape-shifting bitch. Then dark, and now he is here. Fuck. Bakugo? Is that you? Asked a voice. Yes. Who asks? Shinso Hitoshi. Oh, the mindfuck, muttered Bakugo. You do realize I don't see this as an insult, said Shinso. Whatever. Did they get anyone else? Asked Bakugo. Ragdoll and Izuku. At least I am only aware of these two, replied Shinso. I have an idea what they want from Izuku, but why us and Ragdoll? Unless Izuku told me about a villain that can take quirks, or they make us villains. It is a bit different than that, boys, spoke Kurogiri. What you described is more of a plan B. Kurogiri activated a light and Shigaraki Tamura came in. Albeit, our boss did take Ragdoll's quirk. Don't tell them our plan, complained Shigaraki. But they would know anyway. Either when they work for us willingly or Inomu's, replied Kurogiri way too gleefully for Shinso's liking, or if the boss decides to take their quirks. The hell you're talking about? Yelled Bakugo. They want you two to join the league, guys, said Izuku. stepping into their view from being Shigaraki. He was cuffed. "My brother is right. Both of you would be excellent villains," said Shigaraki. "Shinso, you were called a villain a lot. Bakugo, you act like one." "I don't act like you psychopaths," yelled Bakugo, cracking a few explosions. "My brother told me otherwise," spoke Shigaraki. "Told me you told a few quirkless to take a swan dive off a roof." Explosion Murder King. "Izuku, did you join them?" asked Shinso. "Hitoshi, no, I would never," said Izuku. "Even if the crusty handjob won't believe it." Tamura slapped his head and took a deep breath. "You'll change your mind, little brother," he said. "You will change your mind and run to me in the league." "What makes you think that?" asked Izuku angrily. "I would never join your league." "Maybe, but you would ally with me, Izu," said Shigaraki. He then brushed his hand through Izuku's hair. "You still dye your hair green like your mother's, a clear sign you yearn for a family. And that family isn't you anytime soon," said Izuku. The siblings, considering Izuku didn't argue that part, were bickering. Shinso said while watching, "I think I marry Izuku one day." "You sure you want a villain as your brother-in-law, mindfuck?" replied Bakugo. "Fucking weirdo." Aizawa and All Might were on a break from the media and the planning of the rescue. Losing 3 students and a professional hero to the league gave UA the shit storm of the century. The public only calmed down after they promised to rescue them and to build dormitories. On the topic of dormitories, Aizawa decided to visit Midoriya Inko again. A visit long overdue. All Might heard from this plan and decided to tag along. Aizawa didn't complain. He doesn't like to pressure them into signing. Aizawa does not call these people parents, but with the problem child, he got a feeling it is necessary. Maybe the sole presence of Japan's #1 hero changes her mind. So Aizawa knocked on Midoriya's door. Instead of the small woman, a rather tall man opened it. He sighed and said, albeit flinching when he saw All Might, "I assume you are the UA teachers my wife told me about. Come in, sirs." Walking into the house, he yelled, "Inko, the teachers are here." Inko came down the stairs. "Mr. Aizawa and All Might?" she said, coming to an halt. "Exactly, Mrs. Midoriya. My colleague informed me of the situation regarding Midoriya Izuku," said All Might, with at least this is what Aizawa assumed, a fake smile. "You are probably aware that UA has a policy that we take our orphaned heroic students as our wards as a safety precaution. Midoriya can't be an expectation of the rule, so we ask you to sign this release we brought. If you follow the news, you may aware that these safety precautions are more needed now than ever," added Aizawa. "UA could sue you into compliance, but we would prefer to find a peaceful solution." Again, Hisashi sighed, "Inko, dear, just sign, so that we can have this over with." "But Hisashi, I don't care what the neighbors think, Inko. Do I need to remind you that we are planning to move to the US?" he said, sounding more annoyed than anything. "And don't dare acting like you care about your infidelity mistake. You gave him up, you made your choice already. Inko, just sign." "Fine. Where do I sign?" she replied. Aizawa gave her the form. All Might then asked, "Mrs. Midoriya, you don't know where the boy's father is?" "Why is this important?" asked Hisashi. "In case he claims rights to our student, would be handy to have him signing a release as well," explained Aizawa shortly. "To my knowledge, Kotaro, his father, is dead," replied Inko. "How do you know that?" asked her husband. "Before giving him away, I tried to give him to his father instead," explained Inko. "I was told Kotaro and his family got killed." The answer calmed her husband. "Now, gentlemen, you have your signature and answers. May I ask you to leave?" "Of course, let's go, All Might," said Aizawa, pulling All Might out of the house with his gear. Walking down the path, he asked, "That smile was fake, wasn't it?" "The most fake I ever smiled," said All Might. "I don't get why people just sign the release when giving up their children. I don't get when couples don't split when one cheats," replied Aizawa. "Once a cheater, always a cheater, right?" Once again the league was trying to convince the 3 students to join their group. While constantly declining, Shinso and Bakugo noted 2 things. Shigaraki was love-bombing Izuku and Toga Himiko was starring at Izuku like an obsessed idol fan. Not that Izuku noticed this, he was busy with his annoying older brother. That was until they heard a knocking. Pizza delivery. Shigaraki said, but we didn't. The entrance door to the bar got broken open by none other than All Might. Izuku walked to Bakugo and Shinso. Fucking All Might. Izuku's cuffs fell to the ground and he freed his classmates. The decay touched Bakugo. He hissed in pain. Sorry, said Izuku. The three then ran to All Might. Dabi tried not to laugh how easily they ran, while Tamura was fuming with anger, mainly regarding Izuku noping out first chance given. He wanted to yell for Kurogiri, but said Misty Man said the sensei demands for him. Tamura can't override commands from his sensei, even if he really wants right now. Out of the bar, All Might picked up the three students and jumped away. Landing, Izuku told him, All for One stole Ragdoll's quirk, and he should appear soon. He called for Kurogiri, the portal maker. Oh, this is bad, said All Might. I assume the two know about All for One? To some extent, replied Hitoshi. Young Midoriya, will you take one for all? Asked All Might. I don't want that the quirk dies with me. You won't die, interrupted him Bakugo. That villain can't beat you. Oh, he can. I only can use my quirk mere hours now thanks to him, replied All Might. Young Midoriya. I said I want to be a hero with my own quirk, but I can't risk giving someone like All for One or Tamura an opening because of my pride and ego. I take one for all, at least temporary, agreed Izuku. Then eat this, said All Might, ripping out a hair. Hitoshi laughed a bit, considering how random this is, while Bakugo was disgusted, but he muttered, well, makes sense that a quirk that can be transferred needs DNA or something. Still fucking gross. Izuku then ate it. Even more gross. Why complaining, Bakugo? Asked Shinso, you jealous you didn't get All Might's quirk? Tisk. Was all Bakugo said, before All Might told them to flee. How did you manage to find us so fast? I carry a tracking device around, made by Momo, said Shinso. Correct, it was young Yaoyorozu's creation that made the rescue possible. Confirmed All Might, but you three now need to leave. The trio ran to a few pro-heroes, ranging from teachers to other heroes. One of them being the number 2 hero Endeavor, who asked, why is he staying behind? A villain that has a history with him is coming, that's why, said Izuku. The Periwinkle one? Asked Endeavor. What? No, oh, Izuku was grabbed by Tamura. Not that guy, yelled Hitoshi, oi, hand job. The insult reached Tamura, who stopped and turned around. What did you call? Seriously, mind controlling him? Asked Bakugo. Let go of Izu, said Hitoshi. Tamura did as he was told, not that he has a choice. Hitoshi hopes Izuku isn't angry that he used his quirk on his brother. But from Tamura's failed attempt at recruiting them, Hitoshi doubts this. Izuku hugged Hitoshi and thanked him. Ah, he isn't angry. Good. Bakugo rolled his eyes. Of course the mindfucker likes the hug if the marriage comment is anything to go by. Endeavor told them to leave. While getting away from the Kamino ward, Izuku heard Tamura yelling. He snapped out of Hitoshi's control. Izuku could sense All for One's presence. He came. The man, no, the monster has the presence of an atomic bomb. The mere thought of him creating dread in the people aware what he can do. All Might didn't tell him a lot, but from what he did tell him, that man is a demon. Not to mention when he saw what he did to Ragdoll. Izuku may despise his quirk to some extent, but it is still better than being quirkless. Ragdoll, yelled Tiger, at least Izuku thinks this is Tiger. Oh, they found her. Good, at least something. All for One appeared besides Tamura, who is frustrated that his brother managed to leave. He could sense All Might. Tamura, I understand your frustration regarding your brother, but I need you to leave. Now. Demanded All for One, go with Kurogiri and prepare. Which includes whatever you want to do regarding Izuku. I want him to join, said Tamura. Then leave and plan how. Said All for One, he is desperate for family. If his dyed hair is anything to go by, use that to your advantage. Kurogiri, return to me when you dropped Tamura off. Of course, sir. Agreed Kurogiri, before leaving though a portal with Tamura. Showtime, All Might. Said All for One, more to himself than anyone else. All Might saw All for One just walk to him, radiating arrogance like any villain would, but also a presence like only the king of the underworld could. If All Might gets out of this, he has to teach the classes about the presence of heroes and villains. Despite being supposed to leave, Izuku, Bakugo and Hitoshi watched All Might and All for One throwing hands. The villain taking the expression literally, swinging a massive inhuman arm at All Might. They could see the two titans of Japan talking. Something said by All for One made All Might freeze in fear. All Might couldn't believe his ears. What did you say? Tamura is Shimura Tenko, Nana's grandson. Repeated All for One. So is Izuku, if you dimwit made that connection. All Might knew his thinking hesitation could give All for One an opening, but he was too distracted. Not only did he left a grandson of his mentor to be corrupted, he met the other one and didn't notice. This at least explains the feeling he had about Izuku. Before he registered All for One attacking, said villain yelled. His arm was decaying. Then he saw it. Izuku punched his arm away from All Might, apparently using One for All, mixed with his version of decay. All Might wanted to scold the child, not necessarily because he was supposed to leave, albeit that too, but because he used the quirk he just got. His arm was broken accordingly. All Might grabbed Izuku and brought him away. He felt Izuku fainting, probably due to the arm. I can't let All for One get his hands on your other grandson, Nana, he said mainly to himself. Looking around, he saw All for One leaving through a portal with Kurogiri. They were in the medical area of Ua, waiting for Izuku to wake up. Aizawa once again wanted to rip his student a new one, because he repeatedly disregarded commands to do nothing. All Might was more angry Izuku used a quirk without any preparation. Why did you even give Midoriya the quirk without any preparation? Asked Aizawa. All Might sighed. If I didn't, the quirk would have been gone. He sighed again. I know you are angry at young Midoriya. Instead of punishing him, I will take responsibility for him. Fine. In a way, you giving this quirk to him was enabling the problem child. Agreed Aizawa, but, oh, I don't know how to punish him. You and Nezu will protect him anyway. Aizawa looked to Izuku. Who is telling him that Inko signed the release? I. Not me. Said All Might. I will probably scold him for using One for All, then thank him for using it. I seriously consider leaving the punishing to you. Muttered Aizawa Shota. On the other hand. Fuck it. I tell the problem child. Tell me what? Said Izuku, waking up. I feel high on painkillers. Well, you probably are. Said All Might. While I should scold you for using One for All, I should thank you for helping me out. I was too distracted by something he told me. You shouldn't. My input gave All for One the chance to leave. Said Izuku, damned hero instinct. Just like when I helped Bakugo, my body just moved. Wait, Bakugo, how are he and Hitoshi? Both are rescued, so is Ragdoll. Said Aizawa, unsure if he should mention more about her. They are moving into the new dorms. I explain later. Your friends are well. I won't call Bakugo a friend. Ragdoll is quirkless now, isn't she? He said. I saw All for One taking search. Why did he do that? I mean, in front of you? Asked Aizawa. He knows I dislike my quirk. He offered me a new replacement quirk. Admitted Izuku. They tried to recruit us three. Shinso and Bakugo told us, also that they focused on recruiting you. Revealed Nezu. Do not worry, we won't judge you for being related to a villain. Partly because you and your brother are the grandsons of the Smile's mentor, added Aizawa. What did you call me? Asked All Might, somewhat insulted. Now, Midoriya. Now that you're awake. Due to the kidnapping of you and your classmates, UA installed dormitories. You will live on campus with your class. Said Nezu. Full time, I mean. You aren't part of Mrs. Shioda's orphanage anymore. Your birth mother signed a release. Mrs. Shioda allows you to visit your friends, though. She signed? All Might threatened her, said Aizawa. I didn't threat her. I just asked nicely and told her Ua can sue her, but we want a peaceful solution. Replied All Might. And her husband told her to sign. In hindsight, I am surprised Hisashi didn't tell her to sign one to begin with. Said Izuku, before laying back. Guess this now really means she won't take me back. None of the adults said anything. But Nezu really wanted to ask why he would want that. Anyway, your friend Kamado Tanjiro and his sister will deliver some of your stuff to the dormitories. Last few pieces. Everything, considering you're now a ward of Ua. Informed him Nezu. Your class is in the Building Heights Alliance. Which reminds me, Aizawa, we still need to decide who becomes Midoriya's legal guardian. All Might said he would take responsibility for his constant rule breaking, said Aizawa. I didn't mean it like that, said All Might, kinda sounding scared. All Might would be a terrible choice. I thought about you, said Nezu happily. Hell no, said Izuku, not liking the thought of the teacher he still assumes kinda hates him becomes his legal guardian. Bad idea. Why not Midnight? Okay, not her, Yamada. Considered Yamada. Yamada already took on the orphans from 2B and the one from 3A, said Nezu, he kinda reached his limit. Why does he have so many wards? Wondered All Might. Aizawa just shrugged, he himself doesn't get how Yamada balances hero work, his radio show, teaching and 4 orphans. He just knows Yamada just does. Albeit, Yagami Light from 3A is very independent, so he isn't much work for Yamada Hazashi. Fine, I do it. Agreed Aizawa, not like I have a choice. Good. All Might, come with me, we need to discuss something, said Nezu. He and All Might left. Listen, Midoriya, this means nothing, but that you really need to listen to what you're told, said Aizawa. Just don't acknowledge with the others that I am your specific legal guardian. I am still your teacher first and foremost. So, continuing like always, got it, agreed Izuku. Izuku, accompanied by Aizawa, met Tanjiro and Nezuko in front of the Building Heights Alliance. The siblings were carrying some cases and boxes. Well, Nezuko with her telepathic quirk did, mostly, judging by the pink psychic energy around the objects. Aizawa wondered if the girl is interested in becoming a hero. Her quirk seems to be strong. She makes them float like it is nothing, just guiding the way with her little finger. Man, Izuku, I am not sure what to be more jealous of, the UA campus or that your parents signed the lease, said Tanjiro. A shame Zuzu and I just have my school's campus. He then got hit with a box wrapped in pink energy. Tani, I don't want to go to your school, I want to go to UA like Izuku, said Nezuko. Or CI, maybe Isamu. Just not your school. I hope to see you next year here, then, Nezuko, said Izuku. I'll happy to show you around then. This answers Aizawa's question. Looks like All Might has to intimidate parents again. They walked in and Aizawa explained the layout to Izuku, then showed them the room. It was empty, ready to be formed to whatever Izuku wants. Another thing for the jealousy list, your own room, said Tanjiro. What do you mean? Asked Izuku. New orphan in the house, one Shiota Nagisa, explained Tanjiro. Turns out the kid is not related to Mrs. Shiota. After storing his stuff, the siblings left. So did Aizawa, informing Nezu of a potential new student. And considering if he for once won't recommend a student. While they were just moving stuff, he saw how perfectly Nezuko controlled her quirk. With them gone, Izuku was storing his stuff away. Like most orphans, he didn't have much. Adding in that he sometimes tends to lose control over his quirk, either when he doesn't notice his gloves are overused or when he is too deep in his note-taking. Knock, knock, nerd, said Bakugo Katsuki walking in. Will you stop now? Stop what? Asked Izuku. Don't play stupid, Ashmaker. The old hag, Izuku assumes Bakugo means his mother, Mitsuki. Told me Inko got asked to sign the lease. Explained Bakugo. She abandoned you fully now. Do you stop dyeing your hair now? She won't take you back. Maybe. I don't know what to think, replied Izuku. I let you think, then, said Bakugo and left again. Oh, your boyfriend took notes for you in class while you were out. What boyfriend? Asked Izuku. The hell is that supposed to mean? Jiro Kyoka wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do, but she and the girls decided to spy on Midoriya with her quirk. They were curious about the 2 teens carrying his stuff. Even though they knew it, it still came as a shock that the 2 siblings were his friends from the orphan. They wanted to stop when Bakugo came in. They were quite shocked when they heard what Bakugo said. And a bit insulted that Izuku didn't tell them that he dyes his hair. They had a hunch who Bakugo meant when he said, boyfriend. After Bakugo left, Momo, Mina and Jiro came in. They came in to see Izuku tearing up. Mina instantly pulled him in a hug and Jiro closed the door for some privacy. Then she also hugged Izuku. So did Momo. I assume you heard what Bakugo said. Yes, said Jiro, the thing about your mom but also the hair dye. The dye. Are you angry I didn't tell you about it? Asked Izuku. While it isn't traditionally not done here, Jiro chimed in that it is in fact banned in most schools in Japan. I guess your circumstances make it different, said Mina. We aren't angry, maybe a bit insulted. Jiro slapped her arm lightly with her jacks. Friends generally don't keep secrets, like natural hair colors. She said, then smirked, tell us your true hair color. And call me Kyoka, Izuku. Fine, Kyoka. My birth hair color was green, like mom's, but my quirk made it periwinkle like Shigaraki Tamura's, replied Izuku. Momo was thinking. Like the villains? Maybe it is better if you keep it dyed, even something that isn't your mom's hair color, she said. I will keep dyeing until I run out of dye, the shit was expensive, said Izuku. He then remembered, he doesn't get an allowance from the orphanage anymore. He can't afford any dye anymore. Looks like he has to get used to, your hair looks like Shigaraki's, comments. Now, let us help you with your room, said Mina. The class wants to tour all rooms. They waited already long enough for you to wake up. You looked terrible when All Might dragged you away. He realized something. One for all, how is he supposed to explain the new quirk? Momo agreed, yes. What was that, even? It looked like a new quirk. Maybe it is a new quirk, said a voice. Toru? Asked Kyoka, did you invisible bitch spy on us? You spied on Midoriya first, don't complain, said Hagakure Toru, local invisible girl most people forget exist. What do you mean, maybe it is a new quirk, asked Mina, is this even possible? Izuku saw how an invisible weight made an indent on his bed. Yes. I heard the teachers talking, Ragdoll is quirkless now, search is gone. All Might said this villain he fought, All for One, can take quirks. She explained. Izuku is shocked, Toru is a walking risk, and that this villain and his league tried to recruit Midoriya, Shinso and Bakugo. Midoriya, you dislike your Decay Quirk, right? Why yes. My mom abandoned me for it after all. Did All for One offer you a new quirk? As an incentive to join? She asked. He just nodded. All for One did. Albeit, that was in Hosu. At Kamino. The incentive was that he would have family in Tamura. Then, I theorized the quirk was given by this villain. Do you say Izuku is a spy? Whisper yelled Kyoka. No, the sole fact that Midoriya attacked All for One to help out All Might is enough to disprove that, said Toru. I just say this is where the quirk is coming from. It could also mean that All for One tried to make Midoriya a Nomu thing. He threatened to make Bakugo and Hitoshi into Nomus if they don't join, added Izuku. Bakugo Nomu is nightmare fuel I didn't need, muttered Kyoka. Now let's finish your room. Oh, take your time, said Toru. Todoroki is remodeling his. I don't know what he does, but it takes time. Wait, Momo, are you finished with yours? I wait for a delivery, said Momo, a new bed. So you, Todoroki, Midoriya and Shinso aren't finished yet, stated Toru. I am asked to get you four to the kitchen. We're ordering pizza today. Because of the rooms and lack of chore planning, no one wants to cook. She then left. At least they think she left, hard to say while she is naked. Hagakure, did you sat naked on my bed? Yelled Izuku when the realization hit. He heard Kaminari cracking up laughing a room besides him. The heck, Midoriya. They heard Kaminari yell in between laughs. They came into the kitchen, and saw a floating dress. Looks like Hagakure was embarrassed. Their class stood around a leaflet of the closest pizza store. Izuku was checking the prices. I sit that one out, he muttered. Why? Asked Uraraka, short on cash. Yeah, admitted Izuku. How come, Ashmaker? Wasted your money on hair dye? Asked Bakugo. Hair dye? Asked Iida. Momo told him it is a long story and not his business. Not my business. It is prohibited for students to dye their hair while in school. Does UA have that rule? Asked Kirishima. Iida shut up. If he thought about it, this rule, or the lack of it, was one of the reasons UA is so unique. UA does not, so get down from your high horse. Yes, I am broke. Not necessarily because of hair dye, but because I no longer get an allowance from the orphanage, revealed Izuku. Why? Did someone adopt you? Asked midoriya. I assume because of the UA policy. All UA students that are orphans become wards of UA as a safety precaution, said Iida. Oh, but that rule you know, mocked him Kirishima. Yes. That policy. Confirmed Izuku. Aizawa then came in, followed by Hitoshi whose nose was reddish. He was hugging a pillow and acting as if he doesn't want to be there. What are you dimwits arguing about? Are you finished with taking orders? Asked Aizawa annoyed. I am annoyed enough. I had to coax Shinso out of his room and I am pretty sure I forgot something important that I need to figure out. Hitoshi. What happened? Asked Kyoka. I discovered the person I like is taken, muttered Hitoshi. Fucking idiot. Muttered Bakugo. Raccoon eyes. Write down a spicy jalapeno pizza for me, 16 centimeters. The delivery guy will dread us, she said, writing it down, or thinking it is a prank call. Not really, Nezu informed the shops in the area that you students order, now that the dormitories are a thing. Told them Aizawa. Nezu assumed they would either dread you or assume pranks. He looked around. What happened with the problem child now? Nothing big, said Momo. She then pulled Shinso onto the closest couch. Hitoshi. Did you confess to them? Shinso shook his head. Idiots. Mindfuck just interpreted Izuku's yelling wrong. Yelled Bakugo frustrated, then left the kitchen. Call me when the pizza's here. Yelling? Asked Aizawa, sounding annoyed. Did he just call him by his given name? Wondered Zero dumbfounded. Hagakure sat naked on Midoriya's bed, which bothered him, explained Iida. Hagakure. For the 51st time, just because you're invisible doesn't mean you can run around naked. Scolded her Aizawa. I should re-enroll into Khan's class. Hitoshi. Relax, Hagakure does that constantly, it means nothing, said Momo. I guess you're right, he admitted. Fuck, this is embarrassing. I think Izuku and Toru are more embarrassed, said Jiro. Izuku, where you going? Izuku was about to leave the kitchen. Like I said, I don't have money for pizza. What is going on now? Asked Aizawa. I know your arm is broken, but you yourself broke, especially with the hair dye. Even Aizawa knows of that. Now it was Aoyama's turn to be floored. Midoriya won't set an order because he doesn't have money, explained midoriya. Because he doesn't get the orphanage allowance anymore, now that he is a ward of UA. Even though I would pay for him, muttered Momo. You would pay for the whole of Class 1A, you oniomaniac, said Iida. Aizawa just stood there. I now know what I forgot, he said. You will be the death of me, Midoriya. He sighed, annoyed with himself for once. UA wards get an allowance as well. I forget to tell you about this, Midoriya. I hate my job. I hand it to you tomorrow. Yaoyorozu, he pays you back tomorrow. Aizawa then left. No need to repay me, she said. Mina then asked, what should it be? After the pizza delivery came, and after Fumikage's quirk scared the delivery guy off, they ate and chatted. Because the topic of Izuku's allowance was still fresh in their mind, some of them asked Izuku how it was to live in an orphanage. After eating, everyone returned to their room for sleep. As soon as his head hit the bed, he fell asleep. Normally Izuku does not recall dreams, but he does the dreams of this night, because it wasn't a dream. Even for dreams, this was too weird. He fell into a circle of chairs, 9 chairs, 1 empty. No, 3 were empty. 2 figures were standing in the corners of this room. 8 figures, 9 chairs. Excuse me, said Izuku, unsure where he is. One of the people sitting, the only woman at that, looked up to him and smiled. Hello Izuku. How do you know my name? He asked. A white-haired man said, Great Nana, you scared him, great first impression. Oh, shut it, Yoichi, said Nana. She stood up and walked to Izuku. You are confused, aren't you? We are the past users of One for All, the quirk you carry. I am surprised you managed to access our vestige world, considering you're the active user. Oh please, you wishing to meet your one sane grandson probably gave him an opening, said Yoichi. I wonder. Gee grandson. I am Nana Shimura, All Might's mentor, and your Intenko's grandmother. You probably know him as Tamura, she said sadly. A shame this is how we meet. It would be sad if we meet because he bit the dust, said another vestige. One for all, leaking, isn't the worst scenario. Now, Yoichi, what are you thinking about? Don't be negative, said Nana. Yoichi said, when Toshinori started using one for all. He managed to seemingly fly. What if Nana's quirk, float, helped? What if it, like the power stockpile, becomes usable for the users? A few more quirks against my brother sounds like a godsend, said Yoichi. One that could have come earlier, agreed N. He then said to Izuku, I am sorry we talk like you're not here. Maybe one for all starts acting a bit weird, now that you can communicate with us. It is okay. Did he say brother? Replied Izuku. Yoichi sighed. That demon is sadly my older brother. Like you shaming Tamura, I'm ashamed of my brother, he said. Izuku wanted to say something, but he felt Nana playing with his hair. She whispered it looks like cotton. Of course it is this color. Looks like hair dye is meaningless in here, he muttered. Right, you dye your hair, said N. About that, why? Why? Yes. Why? Why do you continue? Your mother abandoned you, so why hold on the color? Asked N. I could understand you want to avoid a connection to Tamura. But any other color, one with less emotional luggage could do the trick. He has a point. Agreed Yoichi. A different vestige said, not gonna lie, red eyes and green hair looks terrible together. Oh, this is just rude, Hikage. Said Nana. You and Tenko are brothers. I can't deny he is a villain, but that is because All for One corrupted him. Kid, just move on from that color, Hikage. Another vestige stood up. We should tell him about the flaw. And punch Yagi for giving the quirk to the kid. Agreed Hikage. We really should. Daigoro is right. What flaw? Asked Izuku. One for all is taking a toll on their users, especially the ones who already wield quirks. Explained Hikage. I only became 40 years old, the two quirks nearly ripped me in two. He gestured to his scars. Toshinori was somewhat aware of the effect, he should have known to pick a quirkless user. Or he was very desperate, you felt the injury All for One gave him, said Nana. Nana, we know you have a soft spot for Yagi, he being your successor and such, but please, you have to admit he made a mistake. Even if he wasn't aware. Said Daigo. She sighed in defeat, she knew Yagi did a mistake. Child, we don't want to scare you and discourage you to fight All for One with it, but please keep an eye out for a suited successor. Said Yoichi. But don't raise a child just for this like my brother would. Oh of course. Not that we think it will be a problem. Your decaying punch gave nice damage to the demon lord. Said N. It's nearly a shame you despise your quirk, it could be used to do so much good if used correctly. But no, you have to let yourself be scared by Tamura. What do you do now? Moving on. Said Izuku. Stopping dyeing my hair. I'll train one for all and how to utilize decaying essence better. Maybe combine them. I like that effort, said one of the vestiges in the corner. Oh, now you're speaking, said Nana. Izu, I think you're in the process of waking up. Keep an eye open for quirk leaks. He heard Yoichi yell, then he woke up. Fuck. It is midnight. Why am I awake already? He muttered to himself. He just laid in his bed. I am at my grandmother. From my father's side, at that. Wow. The class was chatting away, waiting for their teacher and last few classmates to arrive. Kyoka, Momo and Mina were bothering Hitoshi, trying to figure out who he likes. He already said it isn't Hagakure Toru. Mina gasped, having a hunch who it is. Is it Midoriya? Said Tokiyami. Fumikage said, your hair. The class looked to the entrance and there he was, Midoriya Izuku with periwinkle hair. He scratched his neck, looking nervous. Does it look bad? You look great, whispered Hitoshi. Kyoka looked surprised at Hitoshi, while Momo gave Mina a yen note, having lost a bet. Your hair looks like a cloud, said Uraraka, so cute. See cute. Didn't you say you wanted to use up your dye? Asked Bakugo. Aizawa took it. Said Izuku. Said teacher came in, and said, get seated. Sensei. Asked Mina. Why did you take his dye? Can you do that even? As his legal guardian, I can. They then heard Kaminaroi cracking up laughing again. Midoriya's stuck with Aizawa. I pity him, whispered Koda to Mashirao Ojiro. Ojiro agreed with a nod. Tamura was frustrated. He didn't even pretend he wasn't. He wants his brother. He wants someone like him. And ask him how he controls the quirk to touch everything he wants, but that is a different matter. Tamura, if you want to do that, you need to focus. Even with my support, you need to keep a cool head, said All for One. Dr. Garaki was working on his arm. Well, the remains of it. Izuku never deactivated it, he let the quirk just do its thing. Dr. Garaki worked hard to make his first aid treatment keep up with the damage, but it was worth it. Not because it helps All for One, but because Dr. Garaki realized this isn't exactly like Tamura's decay. He didn't tell Tamura that, unsure how Tamura would react. He just knows Tamura is very focused on Izuku being like him. Any difference bothers him stronger than it should. Sensei, do you say you help me get my hands on Izuku? Asked Tamura. Of course. If you haven't noted, your brother used one for all. Replied All for One. You get your brother, I get my brother's quirk. All Might gave the quirk to Izuku? Asked Tamura offended, ruining him further? Dr. Garaki's theory was proven. Telling Tamura his brother's quirk is a separate quirk won't end well for the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. Isn't exactly a phrase Tamura is familiar with. How can we fix him? Fix. Simple. You may not like it, but Izuku isn't exactly fond of his quirk. Like you, he lost family because of it. Said All for One. I will offer him other quirks to replace it. And one for all, an exchange, business. He dyed his hair to appease his mother. He even dyed it before meeting you, so it isn't hiding his connection to a villain. If he is desperate enough. He shouldn't hide his connection to me. He should be like me, whined Tamura. He shouldn't yearn for that bitch. Relax. According to our spy, she signed a release. Chimed Dr. Garaki in. Albeit, your brother isn't processing it well. Aizawa announced the provisional license exam to his class. Ida asked if this isn't a bit early. Yes, it is, but two is that you fight villains. Said Aizawa. You are a special headache of a class, so we decided that you will take the exam as first years. Which means your training will become harder and you will start creating your ultimate attack moves. You will also meet the 3 strongest students of Class 3A. They will give you guidance. Come in. Walking in were 3 older teens. One buff blonde, an emo-looking guy who looks like he doesn't want to be here, and a blue-haired girl who in comparison, or compensation, looked too eager for this. Hello, 1A. We're the big 3, said the blonde. I am Tagata Mirio and... I'm Hado Nichir, interrupted him the girl. She then looked to Izuku. Oh my. His hair looks like a cloud. She ran to him and played with his hair. Izuku froze like a deer in the light of a car. The still unnamed student rolled his eyes. What is your quirk, Cloudy? My quirk is Decaying Essence, answered Izuku. Nichir, you're embarrassing. Please stop playing with his hair, this is rude, said the third one. Anyway, I am Amajiki Tamaki. I am sorry for my friend's behavior. Nichir let go of Izuku and returned to her friends. Izuku has no idea what move he could come up with, using just Decaying Essence. He isn't sure if he should use one for all. Albeit, Hagakure Toru established the rather widely accepted excuse that it is a quirk given by All for One to corrupt him. Heck, this is what he told Tanjiro and Nezuko when they asked about the fight between All Might and All for One. He would like to thank her. On the other hand, she is already enough of a security risk to any secrets, so he better should avoid telling her anything about One for All. His class was training, left to their own devices, figuring out their moves. Hitoshi somehow convinced Aizawa to copy his capture gear. But because he joined the class later, he won't take the exam until next school year, so he has no pressure to master it and to make a move. So Izuku and the girls just rendered him to be their thinker while they do physical training. Like the Ripley grip, maybe you can copy Mina? Proposed Hitoshi. Her acid veil, but it decays everything that touches her? I would like to avoid copying her again, replied Izuku, and I am not sure that a shield is what Aizawa had in mind. Maybe you could build off that punch you gave All for One, proposed Kyoka. Like Hagakure, she likes to spy on the teachers. Hence Class 1A knowing the villain's name. In general, use the quirks he gave you, make his plans backfire on him. What quirks did he give to you anyway? Asked Momo. Like Izuku, She was clueless what to pull off with her quirk. Like Mina, she just figures out small tricks. Only a strength stockpiling quirk. Lied Izuku. Yoichi hinted he may access the other user's quirks. I fainted after he gave me that quirk, so I don't know if it is the only one he gave me. 2 quirks is already mind-boggling, but can you imagine to have 3? Or even 4? Wondered Momo, the possibilities. I still try to get the hang of it, I'm kinda worried that a 3rd quirk pops up, said Izuku. He was again nervously scratching his neck. I still struggle to not break my bones using the strength quirk, what may happen with a 4th one? He started to mutter worries, not noting that he started to float, until he felt Hitoshi's gear wrapped around him. Looks like number 3 is here, said Hitoshi, floating. Pretty harmless in comparison. Float? The first quirk to unlock is his grandmother's, he somewhat likes this. Hitoshi was pulling on him. Damn. Could you try to manipulate it? You just float more. Momo, mind making weights? On it, said Momo, starting to create weights. Aizawa saw what they were doing, and just said, more quirks. At least nothing destructive. He helped Hitoshi with his own gear. He then realized, Shinso, your pulling is weak. I don't want to accidentally rip it, stop worrying, you too, Midoriya. Why yes sir. Izuku stopped his mumbling and took deep breaths, then he felt the quirk stopping and he fell, the 2 gears making that he doesn't drop to the ground like a plate. Looks like the weights aren't needed anymore, said Momo, somewhat disappointed. Unless Izuku starts to float again, replied Kyoka. Keep them close, just in case. Back on the ground, Aizawa dragged Izuku to Nezu, saying he needs to be informed of the new quirk. Bakugo saw them leaving the gym and asked what this was about. Oh, a new floating quirk popped up in Izuku, replied Jiro Kyoka. He just started to float. Bakugo knows of one for All Might, and Izuku didn't bother to keep it a secret back then. As well as the excuse Hagakure accidentally created. But he isn't sure where the floating comes from. Unless it is related to the Wonder Quirk. At this point, he won't be surprised, not that he cares much anymore. Fucking Ashmaker, he then left. With Bakugo out of earshot, Hitoshi asked, girls, I need your help with something, not relating to quirks. Unless you want to confess to our quirk dumpster, it may is, said Kyoka. What? How did they knew that? Now he was blushing. We know you like Izuku, said Momo. Your reaction confirmed that. Now, with what can we help you exactly? How do I confess? Izuku took a while to return, which turned out to be Hatsume Mei's fault. While talking to Nezu, somehow his move became the topic. Mainly because Nezu told him not to rely solely on the newest shiny quirk he got or the strongest. Izuku agreed, but said he will focus on float for the next while despite that, because he needs mobility. He then had an idea for a support item. Nezu told him to ask Hatsune for such. Which he did. He heard about Hatsume Mei from his class and saw her in the television of the sports festival. So he returned 3 hours later with some sort of grappling hook that is fixated on his sleeve. Both arms, actually, as he can't decide which arm to use to swing around like Zero. His left arm so that he can use his right arm to attack as best as he can, or his right arm so that he can maneuver the best he can, even if that means he needs to get better with his left-hand aim. They also feature holsters for magazines with small metal marbles. His new fingerless gloves, besides featuring an extension that helps to aim the hook, the gloves feature a small pistol-like machine. Izuku can touch it to infect the marbles with the decaying essence. Izuku was, while Mei was working on it, to ditch them, but he decided to keep them as a backup. That was until Mei asked a question. Do you have any other use for the marbles? Now that you can do it without? She said, if not, they would be a waste on his suit, unnecessary weight. So Izuku sat in the workshop of the support course and started thinking. In other words, he analyzed the shit out of his own quirk and considered uses for marbles. His muttering scared some of the other support students, especially the ones who recognized his hair color. After bouncing a few ideas with Hatsune, and a few of the braver students, one asked him to decay a machine to test the durability of the material she used. He decided a function. That is, after a test. He already can infect objects with decay, and he can control when it stops. Can he control when it starts? In short, the marbles will be mini landmines that are more discreet. They don't explode your ass off, they decay it away. Izuku asked Zero, who was still jumpy around Izuku, to be fair, decaying skin has to be fucking painful. If he could give him some pointers for swinging around. Turns out Zero is very knowledgeable regarding physics. Well, one's needed for his quirk, actually. Considering that Momo studies the shit out of chemistry for her quirk, that Zero does the same with movement-related physics isn't surprised, even if it is for a move he came up with and not his quirk directly. After that, Zero Honta was lesser of a pussy around Izuku. A week later, after Izuku had some control of the floating, and a dream session with the vestiges that was mainly spent with Nana celebrating her grandson has her quirk, they were given a last task before they go to the exam. They're asked to fight each other and use their moves. But Tagata Mirio has a different idea. He requested to fight Izuku. Aizawa allowed it. He got a hunch to why the third year requested it. Tagata Mirio is heavily associated with Night Eye Agency, which itself is heavily associated with All Might Agency. Sir Night Eye used to be All Might's sidekick after all. All Might fought All for One, who gave Midoriya these quirks for all Aizawa knows, so he assumes Sir Night Eye told him something regarding the randomly appearing quirk of Midoriya Izuku. Izuku was nervous what the older boy knows, or what he was told. All Might told him that Sir Night Eye tried to convince him to make Mirio his successor. Considering the mistaken focus on physical strength of One for All, he isn't surprised. Lemillion is a buff hero in training. Unlike Izuku, who is still somewhat of a dusty orphan twig. Especially in comparison. Mirio is golden. So they started the day with a battle between Lemillion, Mirio never bothered with a title, and the orphan hero Ashen. Izuku isn't sure how this will end, he just knows he doubts his new support items help. Especially the hook. He, Tanjiro and Nezuko, as well as the other orphans in the orphanage watched the segments of the other years, which includes Mirio's class. His quirk is something, a full-on counter. How do you decay something you can't touch? Mirio can just turn intangible when he sees fit, when he sees the decay, unless he doesn't. An risky idea is forming in Izuku's head, but he won't know if it works or not if he doesn't try it. Even if it just buys him time to do something. Izuku and Mirio were standing opposite of each other in the gym hall. His class, Aizawa and Mirio's two friends were standing at the walls, watching. Mirio said, sounding pretty excited, "I've heard a great deal about you, Midoriya, and I saw you perform at the festival, not to mention the battle at Kamino Ward. Give me your all." "Okay, Tagata," agreed Izuku. "Wanna start now?" "Of course," he said before vanishing in the ground, his suit left behind. Smoke started to spread from Izuku, who wasn't too surprised it came. Which was not the case with his very confused class. Izuku used his hook and aimed it at the ceiling, swinging around, most importantly, not touching the ground. After years of writing notebooks about heroes and the occasional villain, Izuku developed the habit to analyze people, even if it is rude according to Tanjiro. From seeing Mirio's parts of the third year section, he knows Mirio likes to vanish in the floor and shoot out. Izuku kicked Mirio in the back. Like predicted, Mirio shot out and was in the air. Izuku was swinging into him, knocking Mirio out of his momentum. Crashing on the ground, Mirio looked up and said, "Oh boy, that was a creative way to hit me, and fast. Seriously, your kick hurts." Izuku may or may not have added metal toe caps to his shoes to make his close combat kicks more viable. Swinging around like Spider-Man, he started to shoot his marbles around, not before loading them with decaying essence. Mirio wasn't even dodging them, he just turned intangible. He wondered where the smoke came from, but as it wasn't doing anything, he didn't pay much attention to it. Aizawa said, he knew about Mirio's floor shooting, why doesn't he know the marbles won't work? And the smoke, is that another quirk from All for One? "I have no idea," said Hitoshi. "Maybe to tire out Mirio? His quirk is kinda a full-on counter to Izuku's. Izuku could profit from Mirio not using it. About the smoke, I guess it is." Mirio again vanished in the ground, shooting out to Izuku's height. Reappearing in front of Izuku, he tried to punch Izuku, who grabbed his first, spreading decay onto it. Mirio fell to the ground, not going intangible. Izuku used his other hook to catch Mirio midair. Mirio was holding his hand, paralyzed by the pain. Izuku dropped him to the ground, then he made the decay stop. When the pain stopped being unbearable, Mirio stood up, out of breath. He saw Izuku hanging in the air, not moving. Just hanging there and looking down on him. Mirio walked to Izuku. "Did you sneaky duster wait for me to attack? It's not like I can decay you while you're going ghost," replied Izuku. He then smirked, and to be honest, I waited for something else to happen. "Like what?" he asked, before feeling another explosive spreading pain, but this time in his foot. His left foot started to decay. Mirio noted the smoke was clearing out around him. He saw the marbles rolling around, decaying the ground. "Oh. Yeah, oh," said Izuku, before coming down. He then made the decay of the marbles stop. "Do you like my trap marbles? My idea for a move. They can either work as a trap or projectiles. I think you should see Recovery Girl, sorry." I expected that to happen," said Mirio, limping off the decayed area. "How did you know what to do?" "Oh, I analyzed your actions from the sports festival, Tagata. I saw that you're often vanished in the ground before shooting out, as well as turning tangible shortly before hitting your target," explained Izuku. "You always start with an attempt at the head or chest. A habit like Bakugo always attacking with his left fist first." Bakugo froze. The Ashmaker knew a weakness of his. He needs to work on this. Tagata Mirio the while wasn't sure if he should be worried or be impressed by Izuku conducting such a habit. A predictable pattern can easily cost a hero's life, especially when fights are so much televised. "Tagata, let me help you go to recovery," offered Izuku. "You limp." "Thanks, Midoriya," agreed Mirio, "and call me Mirio." "Call me Izuku, then." The two left the hall, leaving his impressed class behind. Nichir was surprised this first year could beat Mirio so easily, especially with a quirk that should be full on countered by permeation. "Traps. That's why he kept the marbles," muttered Hitoshi. His teacher agreed. He knew Izuku could shoot the decay on its own now. Midoriya grew fast, to a worrying degree even. Considering what Gran Torino told him, Nezu and All Might. "Huh, looks like someone has to repair the floor," said Aizawa. After the school day ended, the class retreated to their dormitory, Heights Alliance. Hitoshi dragged Izuku into Izuku's room. "Your fight against Mirio was awesome, but you acted weird around Tagata," said Hitoshi. "Yeah, what about that?" chimed Momo in, who walked in followed by Kyoka. "Yeah, you're only rude to people who have been rude to you," said Kyoka, which Tagata wasn't. "Mirio is." "Girls. There is something you need to know," said Izuku. "The smoke you saw wasn't from a quirk from All for One." "Oi, are you telling them about the secret?" interrupted him Hitoshi. "I doubt All Might is gonna like that." "Oh, fuck All Might. I don't want to lie to Momo and Kyoka," said Izuku. "Remember how the strength quirk is similar to All Might's?" "Yes. So, it is related to All Might?" asked Kyoka. "Is Todoroki's theory true? Are you related to All Might?" "Typically Todoroki. I am surprised he didn't call that Izuku is related to Shigaraki," muttered Hitoshi. "I am related to All Might's late mentor. She had a quirk that can be passed on. My grandmother got it from a hero of old times. She gave it to All Might. He gave it to me while he freed me," said Izuku. "He did it so that, if All for One would have beaten him, the quirk, One for All, won't be lost. Or be taken by All for One. I never got a quirk from All for One. It was just a cover to explain One for All." "So, the smoke and strength is part of All Might's quirk," said Momo while trying to progress the information. "But he never used smoke. This is the weird part. He only could access the strength stockpile, but not the quirks of past users. Which I can. I assume because I am related to an old user. I am not sure why." Tried Izuku to explain, but yes, the smoke belongs to One for All. "This is a big deal. Does anyone know of it?" asked Kyoka. Her mind was blown. "Hitoshi knows, Nezu does. So does Bakugo, who knows how many villains including All for One and whoever All Might thought should know. Gran Torino, another mentor of All Might," said Izuku. "The important one is Sir Night-Eye, who is All Might's old sidekick, and Mirio, who's doing his work experience at Sir Night-Eye Agency." "Wait, is this why Tagata wanted to fight you?" asked Hitoshi. "All Might told me that Sir Night-Eye wanted Mirio to take on One for All," said Izuku. "Sir Night-Eye wasn't pleased when All Might choose someone else. I don't know what Sir Night-Eye told Mirio about me, but I was worried fighting Mirio. Tagada didn't strike me like the jealous type. Spoke Bakugo stepped in. Extras, leave. I need to talk to Izuku. First name. The shit's real, I leave. Said Hitoshi. He and the girls left the room, leaving the childhood bullies alone. What do you want, Bakugo? What you said about me always starting with the same strike. Why did you mention that so nonchalant? Why did you reveal this weak spot to me? Asked Bakugo. Izuku was dumbfounded. Are you seriously complaining to me that I made you aware of a flaw that can be used against you? Giving you a chance to fix it? Well, yes. Why didn't you use this against me? Izuku rolled his eyes. I know you see everything as a competition, but you haven't noted, the League of Villains is after me. I have better things to do than to revel in our rather one-sided rivalry. Said Izuku annoyed. I do not care to best you. You know of one for all. If anything, I ask you to become better and help against the League, like all the other heroes caring to protect the world. He sighed. Either swallow your pride or fuck off and leave me alone. So, you won't want to hold me back? No, said Izuku again. I want you to blow of all for one and the rest of the League. I doubt I can handle them all alone. The training came and went and the classes of UA were already on their way to their provisional license exam. On the way, he played around with Black Whip, a quirk he unlocked just 2 days ago. Kirishima and Tokiyami had a hard time fighting against that one. While he is happy to have unlocked Black Whip, he would really love to access his grandmother's quirk, Float. Partly due to it being her quirk, partly because he just want to be more mobile. Albeit, Black Whip does help with that, too. Arriving at the exam building, he made sure he is loaded on marbles and threats to swing around. His hero costume. While still resembling Kaminari's and Kyoka's, their costumes are made by the same company after all. It changed a lot. Not only did he add the hook holsters, marble shooting gloves and pouches for the marbles, he added metal caps to the shoes and replaced the green details with dark purple. Not red, this would make look him too similar to Tamura for his liking. At the exam building, they saw many students from other schools, including students from the hero course of Tanjiro's school. They were soon instructed what the task is. Essentially the exam is a battle royal, each school against each other. They are given some device that is stuck onto their bodies and suit. If hit with balls, they are out. In addition to that, there will be actors pretending to be civilians that need to be rescued hidden in the area. Their teachers are always watching. So are the officials of the Hero Public Safety Commission, the HPSC. While preparing for the exam, they met some students of the other schools. 2 of them being Intelli Seiko, who said she'll crack their tactic like a code, and Utsushimi Kami, who was just very odd. And unlike the other students, not rude to Izuku's class. Doesn't change that she was weird as it gets. Intelli on the other hand, she was rude. But a specific kind of rude. Izuku is convinced she has an intelligence quirk. She has the aura of a person with such a quirk. One of the children in Mrs. Shioda's orphanage had such quirk. He was always acting as if he was superior to everyone else. He was probably lesser liked than Izuku. He always assumed he would be adopted out soon, as he had such a great quirk. He ended up aging out of the orphanage. People with intelligence quirks have a certain type of arrogance and rudeness, both Intelli Seiko is reeking with. At first, Izuku was surprised Momo hadn't developed such a reeking aura. While her quirk doesn't make her smarter, it requires brain power, which Momo proved she possesses. Izuku, Hitoshi, Momo and Kyoka stayed close together. They will act as a team, even more so than the class as a whole. Partly because some, namely Todoroki and Bakugo, split from the class as soon as the exam started. They made their way to the middle, where the civilians were. Considering it is a well-known fact that all the other schools focus at the UA students, it didn't take long for their classmate Ishido Mina to be under fire. The pink girl was difficult to not see, her very revealing and colorful costume not helping. The crazy colored pattern really popped in the rocky field. But to be seen didn't bother Mina, even if it meant that those balls were thrown into her direction. It was as if she wanted them to see her. When the balls were close, they sprayed her spay around, making a veil of acid, which destroyed the balls. Seeing this, he wondered if he could emulate it. He could, easily, maybe even better, but should he copy Mina again? He needs to come up with his own moves. He has multiple quirks, thus having lots of possibilities. But what is originality of use, when he is taken out? He sprayed his decaying essence around his group, blocking balls. "Dude, did you copy Mina again?" asked Kyoka, slamming some girl from CI with her sound waves, before hitting her with one of the balls. One CI student out. "I saved our ass, didn't I?" he replied. "Hannah," yelled another girl. Probably the classmate from the girl Kyoka defeated. "Yep, they're from CI, one of the most arrogant and vile schools. Not that private academies are humble to begin with." The girl walking up to Hannah wore a monocle and had blue straight hair. She seemed to recognize the group. "Oh, I saw you four on TV, when your sports festival was shown. I analyzed you in your class, don't think you can win this," she said. "I am Intelli Seiko, Quirk IQ." Seiko walked to her friends who stood in front of her. Izuku's group was wondering what the arrogant girl was doing now. Yaoyorozu started to create a little something, while Izuku was observing her. That and charging his marbles with decay. Intelli drank tea, confusing the group, when suddenly yellow strings of numbers appeared around her. Izuku dropped a marble. Like when he battled Mirio, a few traps won't hurt. Unless his teammates walk into them. The strings disappeared and she told her friends something. Izuku the while dropped a few more marbles. Kyoka pushed them a bit more into Intelli's direction with her sound waves. "Girls, attack Yaoyorozu first. She takes time making her cannons," said Intelli. "Don't touch the boys and don't answer to them. One is a mind controller and the other one decays everything he touches. Remember the stain report." With their leader's command, the girls attacked. Momo had to abandon her massive cannon. It isn't very mobile. Kyoka focused on hitting the girls who were after Momo with her waves. Izuku attacked them up front. They were dodging him, but not his marbles. Not that he managed to hit them. He had a few theories, but he couldn't process them. He activated Black Whip, grabbed his team, and Mina Asui who was close by and used Float and 1 for all 5% to bring them into the air. He used Black Whip and an iteration of Mina's Acid Veil for protection. "Izuku?" asked Asui. "I need to think," he said. Hitoshi, Intelli said they shouldn't answer. Mind to talk shit, at some point they have to snap. Making an opening for them to be controlled. He answered, "I already have an idea. Momo, you need to make something else. Your cannons are too well known." "Maybe nothing you made at the sports festival," said Kyoka. "No cannons, no staffs and no small shields," she said. "But what then?" "Dunno. Something to really inconvenience them. Guessed Izuku. May told me she always thinks first what use an item needs to have, instead of forcing an use to the item, whatever she meant. I think I know what she meant. I need to access the situation first, that think how to resolve it, instead of just brute forcing it with my cannons," she said. "Inconveniencing, you said?" Izuku nodded. "Kiro, how long does your veil hold?" "I don't know, Asui," he said truthfully. "I just know it will splatter across the others when it pops." "These wrenched egomaniacs watched our sports festival," muttered Kyoka. "Pretty much all of Japan did, Ribbit," added Asui. "They know what we can do. Back then and the report not long after. They think I need to touch them to decay them." "They looked pretty surprised when you made this bubble and activated Black Whip," said Hitoshi. "Their knowledge is outdated." "Anything else before we get out?" asked Izuku. "I have an idea. Asui, we need you for this. I will trap them. I will make a handcuff and bind them to me. Asui, you turn invisible and strike. Hitoshi, be as obnoxious as you can. Make then answer you," said Momo. "Izuku, get your decaying marbles ready." "So, you risk being hidden out?" asked Asui. Momo nodded, confirming that she may not profit from this plan. "I hear pained yelling," said Kyoka. "Izuku, they stepped onto your marbles." He chuckled. "Looks like I deactivate decaying essence then, get ready to fall." Asui turned invisible and Momo made a parachute for her and Kyoka. Hitoshi grabbed onto Izuku, who had Float to boot. Izuku sacrificed one of his fingers to make an air cannon that not only popped their protecting veil, but also sprayed the decay all over. The students under them were showered in decay, as they collected down there to corner the group. While falling, they let balls rain as well, only Asui didn't. Close to the ground, Hitoshi said loudly, "Oi, Intelli. Hey, stupid. How do you like your outdated data?" Intelli's face showed shock, then annoyance. She couldn't believe her data was wrong. She is never wrong. The group landed and Kyoka and Izuku pushed the surrounding students away from them. Izuku stood protective in front of Momo. They couldn't let their trap be obvious. The CI students looked rough. Well, their shoes and knees. Yep, they stepped into Izuku's little surprises. Geez, Intelli, what happened to you and your bitches? Said Hitoshi. Weren't you aware of Ashen's multiple quirks? Multiple, said one pink-haired girl. We aren't, said another, mint-haired. Girls, attack your classmates, said Hitoshi. The girls turned on their friends. One other girl attacked Hitoshi as revenge, but he grabbed her with his gear. But the girl just chuckled. He then was attacked by a fourth girl from the side. He dodged and dodged, until the girl got hit by something. Asui? Asked Hitoshi. Nope, Hagakure is here, said the other invisible girl in their class, but Sue is close by. Kiro, confirmed the frog girl before jumping one of the CI girls. Hitoshi dropped the girl and she too was taken out by Asui. Intelli Seiko was annoyed, her team being taken out with ease. She dodged her mind-controlled friends and attacked Yayorozu herself. She grabbed a few of the marbles and threw them, but they decayed. She rushed to Yayorozu, wanting to tackle her down, but the girl grabbed her arm and connected them with a handcuff. Yayorozu then circled around, swinging Intelli around. The cuff then broke, courtesy of Izuku's decay. The then was hit by multiple balls. With the CI girls out, they proceeded to the middle. Asui and Hagakure joined their team. Hagakure specifically said she'll protect them from other students while they helped the civilians. Kyoka decided to do the same. They soon walked into the middle area. This circle was filled with debris that should remind of a ruined city. Asui, Hagakure and Jiro were scouting out the area for civilians, while Yayorozu accessed the surroundings to decide what to make. Albeit the invisible girls were also readying themselves to attack potential other hero hopefuls. The boys were full on focusing on other hero hopefuls. Jiro was picking up some civilians under a ruined building. Izuku was decaying the bigger pieces of rubble. Smaller ones were taken away by Hitoshi and Asui, as well as a little primitive crane, powered by her and Asui's power. Hagakure sneaked around them, waiting for any other hero students to strike from behind while they are busy. Hagakure saw one student from Shiketsu sneaking up to them, a ball aiming for Izuku. But then his tracking plates were activated. A floating ball touching his back. Cursing up a storm, he left the area. Fucking invisible or something. Ooh a bitch. Your luck you're out or I'll beat you, thought Hagakure. She couldn't speak out loud, she needed to be silent. Toru can't be detected just yet. She saw the guys' classmates were going for her team's direction. She sneaked back, trying to reach them first. After the last big builder was gone, Izuku lifted up the rest with Black Whip. One whip was used to bring the civilians out of their hiding place. Damn, your quirk's perfect for that type of hero work, said one of them. Someone else said, Akira, stay and roll. He gave Akira a slight punch. Izuku felt something sneaking up on him. Izuku, it's me. Shiketsu students on your left, informed him Hagakure. Guys, Shiketsu students, get ready, he told the rest of the teams, secretly handing her a few more balls to throw. He grabs his team, repeating his planning sphere. Albeit, Hagakure and Asui weren't in it. While the sphere distracted the others, the girls played Phantom. The bubble popped and it rained decay and debris, as well as his marbles. Well, he didn't let go of all debris his whips were holding. He swung some at the others to scare them off, like a mace. Landing, he was attacked by Utsushimi Kami. Izuku floated into the air, throwing a piece of debris at her. He doesn't understand that girl. She isn't trying to hit him with the balls they were given. He doubts Kami didn't understood the assignment. She isn't that carefree. Thanks to Hitoshi's fast thinking, she was caught and was soon asked, did you Blondie forgot your balls? Hey, Kami, after being insulted by Blondie, she melted. Grey Goo revealed Toga Himiko, a villainous part of the League of Villains, their vanguard squad to be specific. The group froze realizing this. A real villain infiltrated the exam. Momo made a megaphone and Izuku helped her to gain height, carrying her with Black Whip. She yelled into the megaphone, everyone listen. The villain Toga Himiko of the League of Villains infiltrated the exam in the form of Utsushimi Kami. Toga Himiko infiltrated the exam. One of the actors, Akira, jumped in front of Izuku. "We're pros. Leave the area and let us deal with her," he said. Izuku gave him a nod and started to get moving. Akira activated his quirk. Little twisters, miniature hurricanes, were forming around him. "The kids should leave. Let me help with that." Izuku knows that impolite voice. "Kurogiri," said man created a portal under Hitoshi. In panic falling, he let go of Toga. Not only did this rip her out of the control, she was able to flee. Once again, Izuku was moving on instinct. 3 whips grabbed Hitoshi and pulled him out of the portal before it closed. Despite the exam being cut short, mainly to search for the real Kami, who had been found, it was announced who passed. From his class, literally only Bakugo failed. Apparently he was taken out by a guy with a disgusting meatball quirk. He wasn't pleased that he failed. After that, they returned to Ua. Maybe they were used to shit like this, but they had an easy time to celebrate that they passed. Aizawa even praised Izuku's team's teamwork. Albeit that insult soon became a dig at Bakugo. Maybe if you had worked in a team, you won't be the only one to fail the exam. They didn't just celebrate, though. They were wondering why Toga was there. What did she plan? Did she try to kill Izuku? Try to kidnap one of them? After the celebration died down, Izuku asked Aizawa-sensei, if I would get expelled, or decide to leave Ua, what would happen to the guardianship? "You would return to Mrs. Shioda's care," he replied. "Why do you ask? Do you think you'll get expelled now that you passed one of the most important exams?" "Considering you hate me, I'm a bit paranoid in that regard," replied Izuku sarcastically to some extent. "Just a hypothetical question, sensei. I doubt Nezu and All Might would let you go, problem child." Soon it was time for their work experiences. Thanks to All Might, Izuku got to work in Sir Night-Eye's agency. Said hero was a confusing mess for Izuku. The man didn't dislike Izuku for being an orphan or his quirk. Well, Night-Eye disliked him for one of his quirk but not the one he was born with. Sir Night-Eye wanted Mirio to have one for all. He is still salty All Might choose someone who isn't Mirio. Said teen works in the agency as well. Mirio pretty much does not care for one for all. Izuku even got the feeling Mirio would have felt insulted by being given one for all, as if All Might would say he can't be a hero with his own quirk. Mirio was kinda protecting him from Sir Night-Eye's passive-aggressive rudeness. The Vestiges, who like Aizawa asked as soon as they could if he plans to leave Ua, they don't like Sir Night-Eye. And even didn't like Mirio, but who cares about En's opinion? The work experience was at first not very interesting, until one day he was patrolling with Mirio. He and Mirio walked into a little girl. Well, no, the girl ran into them. It was clear as a crystal that she was afraid. They soon saw why. A very shady guy, wearing a mask akin to a plague doctor, claimed he was her father. Even if true, albeit both doubted that, the girl's very afraid of him. A child isn't afraid of someone out of nothing. "Return my daughter to me. Eri, come here," said the man. The girl, Eri, clung onto Izuku, who had to pull her to her father. While both hero hopefuls knew that guy was shady, they had no active reason to do anything about him. Sadly, children being scared of a shady guy who's known to be a criminal somehow does not justify to keep the child away. You look like this Shigaraki Tamura," said the wannabe plague doctor. Izuku was surprised. He knows Tamura. "You know my brother? We're business partners." He then tried to grab Izuku, who was jumped by Eri, who dashed to Mirio. Instinctively, or due to danger sense, Izuku grabbed that guy's arm, accidentally disintegrating his arm. Izuku hadn't had a quirk slip like this in a while. "That guy's Chisaki Kai, leader of the Shi Hisaikai. Don't let him touch you," told him Mirio. "His quirk overhauls everything on a molecular level." Chisaki then attacked. He rushed past Izuku to Mirio, only to be grabbed by Black Whip. "Izuku, hold him tight. I inform the agency," demanded Mirio. Izuku stared onto Chisaki, as if that would stop him from escaping. He didn't notice that some of his decay was climbing Black Whip like a vine climbs a wall. He only noted when Chisaki was yelling, decaying. "Shit. I lost control of my quirk," he shouted. Mirio blocked Eri's view while Izuku let go of Chisaki's remains. While Izuku got pardoned, he still felt shit. Sure, Overhaul was a villain, but he still accidentally killed the guy. So he laid in his dorm and was, once again, considering to leave. Leave behind Ua, leave behind his heroics. He still can't control that stupid quirk of his. Maybe he should give one for all to Mirio? He was ripped out of his thoughts when Hitoshi walked into his room. Izuku? Are you still bothered by your slip-up? He asked. Slip-up. Such a weak word for disintegrating a man. Replied Izuku, not bothering to look up. Is something bothering you? Kinda. But I assume this is a bad timing to tell you this, said Hitoshi. Tell me what? I like you. Not just as a friend, I mean. Admitted Hitoshi. Saying that was easier than expected. I want to ask if you would go out with me. Okay, Hitoshi. He agreed, I like you, too. But not today, I still need to process. Of course. Said Hitoshi to his now boyfriend. Can I help you with something? Girls. Hitoshi asked Izuku out. They heard Hagakure yelling. They saw a pair of pants run down the floor. Izuku rolled his eyes. Doesn't that girl know what privacy means? After the girls gushed over Hitoshi's confession, turns out he asked Momo for advice, who just said he should just tell him Izuku had gone for a walk. Partly so that Hagakure can't spy on him, partly so that he can think in silence, away from his class and semi-useless legal guardian. He was in a park not far away and just sitting on a bench. I can't believe I still can't control that stupid quirk. He muttered to himself, not knowing someone listened to his complaints. I could help you with that, Izuku. Jumping off the bench, he saw All for One approaching. All for One. What do you want from me? An offer. You see, One for All used to be my brother's quirk. Like you can imagine, I want it back. I would trade it and your version of disintegration against any quirk you want. Proposed All for One. Maybe a telekinesis quirk to appease your mother? Admittedly, this sounds like a sweet deal. But he gave up on his mom weeks ago, so a quirk like hers would just make him suffer at this point. Isn't that why you dyed your hair green? Like Intelli, All for One uses outdated data. That was just a phase with the dye. Said Izuku, I have to decline. No way in hell I hand you One for All. As if a villain like you values family relations. Says the person who rejects their brother. Countered All for One. Family doesn't necessarily translate to blood. Said Izuku. He then rushed away to UA. He can't battle the demon lord of the underworld now. To his luck, All Might was also approaching Ua. All for One also didn't feel like battling and left, but not before saying, the offer is still open, Izuku. Izuku was telling All Might and Hitoshi what had happened, his meeting with that ancient evil. All Might asked multiple times if he really wants to keep going. I don't know anymore. I still can't control decaying essence, let alone most of One for All. I accidentally killed someone. Said Izuku. Tamura is still out there. Then fight him together. Said Hitoshi. Izuku, you're a student, a first year, like me. We aren't exactly supposed to have mastered our quirks yet. Yes, that you killed a guy isn't optimal, but it was one slip up in a high-stress situation. Why don't we get stronger together, and fight the league together? Why not be imperfect together? I suppose that could work. He then hugged Hitoshi. And now the teasers for my next My Hero Academia FIC and next project in general. For My Hero Academia, it is a FIC based on my one-shot, Culture Shock. Here's the description. After an argument between his parents, Izuku goes to Germany as part of an exchange program. Arriving in East Germany, he experiences a culture shock, living with his father and new viewpoints on heroics and the Japanese system. But even in Germany, Tamura is still a pain in the ass. The end. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Now we will see you in the next video.